Our whole family was working in the fields up the mountain. Dad swiftly grabbed and snapped off a cobra's tail, excitedly telling Grandma to stew it with chicken that evening for a dragon phoenix feast. My little brother shouted that snake meat was the most delicious and there wouldn't be enough to go around. With doting affection, Dad said, "If my boy loves it, we'll just grab another piece of tail." With that, he reached his hand toward the snake hole. Mom and Grandma kept urging him on. Worried my little brother might go hungry, I quickly stopped him. "That's a cobra's tail. If you keep digging and the snake's head faces outward." Dad cursed his bad luck and decided to leave it be. To my shock, my younger brother flew into a rage and smashed my kneecap with a hoe when I wasn't looking. I begged them through tears to take me to the hospital, but they balked at the medical expenses and just patched me up with some folk remedies. In the end, I became a cripple that everyone shunned. Later, to buy designer clothes for my brother, Grandma took it upon herself to sell me off to a violent old bachelor. From then on, I withered away in the torment of domestic abuse. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day Dad tore off that snake's tail. This time, if Dad wants to go snake-hole digging, so be it. 1. Dad was holding up a snake's tail triumphantly, grinning as he said, "Mom, let's slaughter a chicken tonight and make dragon phoenix stew. Bobby absolutely loves it." Granny beamed with joy, patting my little brother's head while nodding repeatedly. I stood there staring blankly at the scene, feeling his perfectly intact left leg, finally confirming he'd been reborn. The 10-year-old brother licked his lips. "Dad, it's not enough. We need more." Father had caught snakes a few times before. Little brother loved nothing more than snake meat stew, always exclaiming how delicious it was. The leftover snake soup would always end up in my bowl. But the mere thought of how snakes lived made me lose my appetite. To Grandma, this was just me being a picky, spoiled brat. It wasn't until my kneecaps were shattered that I truly understood how wretched a girl's life could be in a family that valued sons over daughters. I've always been expendable in their eyes. Even if I died, nobody would bat an eye, let alone just breaking a leg. Their world revolves around my younger brother. Fine then. We're better off without these so-called family members. If you enjoy poking snake holes, go right ahead. Seeing this, Dad gave Bobby an indulgent smile. All right, since Bobby likes it, I'll yank this critter out and get him a piece of its tail." Mom gave Dad a playful swat on the back. "You spoil him rotten. Hurry up already. It's getting dark." Granny chuckled too. "Exactly. Hurry up now. Don't keep my precious grandson waiting." With his mouth watering, coming to my senses, I immediately clapped my hands. Dad's amazing. Truly the bravest man in our village. Seeing this, Dad couldn't help but feel smug. Without hesitation, he thrust his hand straight into the snake hole. The next moment, he let out an earth-shattering scream. 02. Ouch, damn thing bit me. Father's face contorted in pain. With a powerful yank of his arm, he wrestled a thick cobra straight out of its burrow. At first glance, the viper's fangs sank deep into the fleshy web between Dad's thumb and forefinger. Dad screamed in terror again. He began flailing his arm wildly, trying to shake the cobra loose, though he whipped its body like a lash. The snake stubbornly refused to loosen its grip. The snack-loving little brother had never witnessed such a terrifying scene before. His face turned ghostly pale as he hid behind Grandma, bursting into loud wails. "Oh my child." Grandma let out a heart-wrenching cry. Mother screamed and lunged forward. One woman grabbed the snake's body while the other pried open its jaws. After an immense struggle, they finally tore the snake's head from Father's hand, hurled it to the ground, and smashed it with a hoe. Father was already lying on the ground, moaning in agony. His arms swelled and turned purple at an alarming rate. Soon, it darkened to an ominous black. Mother was terrified out of her wits, crying hysterically, "It's no use, that snake's venomous. We need to get him to the hospital now." To my surprise, Grandma's eyes turned sharp. "Hospital? That'd cost a fortune." "Just snake venom, isn't it? Suck the poison out. That's how they always do it on TV. I'll fetch some herbs later. He'll be right as rain." No sooner had she spoken than her clouded old eyes snapped toward me. "Alina, come here. Suck the venom out of your father." Mom was hysterical, screaming at me. "What the hell are you standing there for? Want your father to die? Get your ass over here and take this hit." A cold laugh echoed in my mind, yet my face contorted into sheer terror. My legs trembled as I staggered backward, lips quivering. "Granny, Mom, I'm scared." Before the words even left my mouth, my eyes rolled back and I fainted on the spot, lying completely still. 3. Useless waste of money, absolutely worthless when it counts. Granny cursed angrily under her breath and stomped over to kick me twice with full force. Still seething with rage, she kept slapping my face wildly. I clenched my teeth and bore the pain. My body went limp as wet clay. No matter how hard she hit me, I just wouldn't wake up. Dad's pained groan cut Grandma off mid-sentence. She rushed to his side in panic, seeing her son growing weaker by the second, completely losing her composure. I cracked my eyes open just a slit, keeping wary watch on their movements, terrified Grandma might grab something to hit me with. I knew I had to get up and run. Meanwhile, Grandma wasn't willing to gamble with her own life, so she turned her gaze toward Mother. You, hurry up and suck the poison out for your man. No, mother was a bride Grandma had purchased with money. She'd never had an ounce of dignity in Grandma's presence. All these years, I've been completely crushed under their control, staring at my husband's festering wound, despite the overwhelming terror in my heart. But under Grandma's predatory glare, I ultimately surrendered, too frightened to resist, yielding out of sheer habit, sobbing. She bent down and began sucking at the black and wound mouthful by mouthful. With each suck, she spat out a mouthful of dark poisoned blood. Grandma watched and nodded approvingly. Then she dashed up the mountain alone. Soon enough, she returned with handfuls of medicinal herbs. Hastily crushing the unidentified plants between stones, she mixed them with saliva and slathered the paste haphazardly over Father's wound. Having done this, Grandma finally exhaled in relief. She called out to Mother. Quick, lend a hand. Let's carry your man home. A good night's sleep and he'll be right as rain. Mother was already feeling dizzy spells, her mouth burning with pain, but she didn't dare disobey, mustering her strength to help Grandma carry Father home between them. Hearing Grandma say everything was fine now, my little brother cheered up again. He immediately ran over to the crushed cobra and picked up its mangled remains, licking his lips with a greedy look. Granny saw this and praised with a smile. What a good boy, knowing not to waste food. As for me, nobody paid any attention. Only after they'd gone far did I pick myself up from the ground, staring blankly at the blood-stained mess scattered across the ground. For the sky grew darker, I headed home. Walking by the riverbank, I saw my younger brother noisily skinning a snake. So tasty, he spotted me and sneered. Look who's back, you little wretch. Keep staring, none of this is for you. I walked away without a word. The moment I stepped inside, Grandma's piercing wails assaulted my ears. My child, how could you leave me like this? How am I supposed to go on living? That damned snake, I froze, through the gaping crack in the door. I saw Dad lying stiffly on the bed. Completely motionless. I know, Dad's gone. There's this indescribable feeling inside, but deep down, I knew I wasn't grieving. Grandma clung to Dad, weeping and scolding him through her tears. Mom slumped on the floor by the bed, her face ashen and lips grotesquely swollen, reaching out feebly toward Grandma for help. Mom, I feel terrible. Think I've been poisoned. Get me to the hospital. Cut off mid-sentence. Grandma immediately flared up, jabbing her finger at Mom and yelling, Hospital this. Hospital that. Where do you think the money's coming from? With your men gone, there's nothing left for you to squander. Just suck it out with your mouth. What's the worst that could happen? Tough it out. You're just spoiled rotten. With that, she completely ignored Mom, clutching Dad's body and wailing uncontrollably. It's all fate's doing. At least we've got Bobby. The old folks say when a father dies young, his fortune passes to the son. From the looks of it, Bobby is destined to bring honor to our family. You can go with peace of mind. At that moment, Mother could hold on no longer and collapsed unconscious to the ground. Before long, my younger brother returned. The moment he stepped through the door, he started making a racket. Granny, I want Dragon Phoenix stew. Dragon Phoenix stew, coming right up, dear. Grandma took the snake carcass and headed straight to the kitchen, oblivious to the commotion indoors. The little brother scampered off to play. At dinner time, little brother ate with pure contentment. Only after stuffing himself did he ask Grandma, why aren't Mom and Dad joining us for dinner? Grandma wiped her tears and said, your father, he's gone. The younger brother started fake crying dramatically. It's all Sister's fault. She wouldn't let Dad do drugs. That's what killed him. The moment those words were spoken, Grandma's long-suppressed emotions. It was like finding an outlet for pent-up emotions. Grabbing me where I crouched, they began raining blows upon me, cursing while striking. I wrapped my arms around my head and curled into a ball. My back, legs, and arms ache incessantly. You cursed jinx, father-killing wretch, she shrieked venomously, flecks of spittle hitting my face. If you hadn't played dead like a lazy coward, refusing to get your father his fix, he'd still be alive. I should have drowned you in the piss bucket the day you were born. All these years of feeding you were pure waste. You killed your own father. Now you'll spend the rest of your life slaving for your brother to atone. Age was catching up with her after all. After beating me for a while, Grandma finally let me go, panting heavily. My heart feels heavy with resentment. It was clearly my younger brother who kept complaining there wasn't enough snake meat, the real instigator of this whole mess, yet all the blame gets pinned on me. When it comes down to it, in this household, daughters deserve to die. 5. Father's funeral arrangements were shockingly slipshod. Grandma couldn't bring herself to buy a coffin. They wrapped him in nothing but a tattered straw mat. Then some relatives were gathered to carry him up the back hill for burial. No ceremony. No weeping, just Grandma murmuring at the graveside, rest easy, son, your fortune has passed to Bobby now. That boy will go far someday. After lying unconscious for a day, Mom stubbornly clung to life and came back. The venom ravaged her body nonetheless. She suffered severe lasting effects. Her hands would tremble uncontrollably. Her vision blurred as her body grew alarmingly frail. Just walking a few steps leaves me gasping for air. Became a helpless invalid dependent on others. Out of rare kindness, Grandma fetched the village barefoot doctor who prescribed the cheapest herbal remedies. You look like husband-killing trash to me. Get well quick, there's a mountain of chores waiting. After that, Grandma completely ignored Mom. Naturally, the responsibility of caring for her fell on me. At first, Mom was cold toward me, ordering me around without hesitation. After all, my brother would visit her often and had even made her promises. Grandma said, I'll definitely make big money someday. I'll send you to the best hospital to get you cured, then take care of you in your old age. Mom beamed with joy upon hearing this, but as time went by, the younger brother soon realized Mom couldn't buy him treats or give him pocket money, and his limited patience quickly ran out. The visits to Mom became fewer and farther between, until eventually, they stopped coming altogether. Mom's hopes shifted completely from my younger brother to me. She started treating me with kindness and warmth. Our Alina isn't the least bit plain. If you ask me, we should rename her Sweetie. Wow, this porridge is delicious. My girl's cooking just keeps getting better. Sometimes after Grandma scolded or hit me, she'd console me. Just bear with it. She controls all the household money. I knew this wasn't motherly love. It was the last straw she could cling to in her boundless despair. She feared even I would abandon her completely. Then she'd truly be left to rot in this bed. I responded indifferently to her attempts to please, still bringing meals on time and cleaning, but rarely responding to her words. Mom's changed attitude toward me deepened my understanding of human nature. 6. Meanwhile, Grandma's behavior grew increasingly paranoid and bizarre. She started buying snakes from villagers. Anyone who caught snakes could sell them to her. This sudden generosity seemed unbelievable coming from my notoriously thrifty grandmother. It wasn't until I overheard Grandma whispering to my younger brother that I understood why. Bobby, since you love eating snake, Grandma will make sure you have it every day. I've heard snakes are called little dragons. Eating more snakes won't just avenge your father. You'll absorb the dragon's fortune too. Soon you'll transform into a soaring dragon, and your success will know no bounds. And so, at our family dinner table, snake became an almost daily dish. Braised, red-cooked, deep-fried, Grandma kept cooking different dishes for my little brother. He was absolutely thrilled, eating with pure delight and packing on noticeable weight. I saw it all but kept my thoughts to myself. Over time, my younger brother began experiencing abdominal pain and diarrhea, occasionally accompanied by constipation. His complexion turned sallow. Though he appeared plump, his energy was utterly drained. Grandma dismissed it as dragon energy transforming his body and paid no mind. Then one night, my younger brother suddenly developed a high fever, clutching his stomach and writhing on the bed while letting out hysterical screams. Panicked, Grandma summoned the village's barefoot doctor. Upon hearing he'd been eating snakes daily, the barefoot doctor exclaimed, "He's got parasites. Get him to a hospital. Quick!" I was called to help, and we rushed my brother to the county hospital in frantic haste. The test results are in. The doctor held up the scan with a grave expression. See these white shadows? They're all parasites in the liver, intestines, and possibly even invading the child's brain. How could you feed him so much wild snake? The scan images looked absolutely horrifying. Grandma couldn't understand the medical jargon, but she knew something terrible had happened. Collapsing to the floor, she wailed and slapped her thighs. Impossible. Our Bobby was destined to become a dragon. How could these wretched snakes have taken him? My little brother was rushed to the hospital ward, but it was already too late. He kept alternating between raging fevers and unconsciousness. Within mere days, his agonized breathing ceased completely. I saw his eyes wide open when he died. Is this the origin story of the idiom "die with everlasting regret"? Grandma wailed heart-wrenchingly, grieving even more intensely than when Dad passed away. Cradling her brother's lifeless body, she sank into prolonged catatonia. The vitality seemed drained from his brow. My brother's funeral remained a hasty affair. He was laid to rest beside Father's grave. Grandma didn't come this time, as if afraid to face Father. When Mom learned about Bobby's death, her expression was oddly calm. No tears, no visible grief, but I knew better. Night after night, she'd weep silently yet violently, her broken whispers calling Bobby into the darkness. Even when her son turned away from her, he remained her everything, her entire world. Now that world had collapsed. How could her heart not shatter? She'll need me in the future, but doesn't want to show it in front of me. Recently she's been doing better, sometimes managing to stand and take a few steps on her own. Clearly, she's not as frail as we'd thought. Late at night when all was quiet, Grandma stared blankly at the starry sky before suddenly turning to me. The villagers all say I'm the one who killed Bobby. What do you think? I shook my head firmly. Little brother wasn't destined for this. He couldn't bear the dragon's aura. His fortune simply wasn't strong enough. Grandma's ashen face suddenly lit up with hope. She suddenly grabbed my shoulders, tears streaming down her weathered face. You're right, Alina. We just weren't destined for this. Our Lynn family. We simply weren't blessed with enough fortune. How is this my fault? What does it have to do with me? Blame your mother, that half-dead woman dragging down our family's fortune. At that moment, Grandma seemed to have found her emotional outlet. She stormed into the room in a frenzy. Mom's screams and desperate pleas immediately echoed from inside. You jinx, you wretched woman who brings death to husbands and children. Not a single good day since you married into our Lin family. You brought this curse upon us. You killed my son. And now you've killed my grandson too. Look at your pathetic, half-dead existence. You've drained all the fortune from this household with your wretchedness. I stood outside the door, watching everything unfold with cold detachment. A strange epiphany washed over me. Emotional outbursts always seek out the weakest to bear their weight, just like my crippled self in a past life. 7. Grandma's been treating me much better lately. It's obvious she's counting on me to take care of her in her old age. Mom comes home battered and bruised every day, bearing the brunt of his temper, yet she clung to life with unimaginable resilience. I worked diligently day after day. In my spare time, I cared for Mom and Grandma. I'd massage Grandma's legs and give her rub-downs. Alina is quite a filial child. She would occasionally praise me. I finally couldn't suppress my inner thoughts. One evening, while I was washing her feet, Granny, I heard, the school fees in town seem not too expensive. Before I could finish, Granny exploded, jabbing her finger at my face and yelling, You want schooling? What schooling? We scraped to put you through middle school. Still not enough. Knowing how to count money's plenty. Where'd we get spare cash for your nonsense? Don't even dream about it. I lowered my head, hiding the look in my eyes, and fell silent. Time's running out for me. Junior high school is about to start. Grandma didn't want me to go. If I don't go now, it'll be much harder later. To my surprise, the opportunity came so quickly. A few days later, our neighbor Ashley came back home. She arrived driving a shiny new car. It instantly caught the whole village's attention. Granny leaned over the wall, eyeing that car with undisguised longing. Seeing the stylishly dressed Sister Ashley again, her eyes sparkled with unspoken admiration. Unable to contain herself, Granny rushed over and grabbed Sister Ashley's arm. My dear Ashley! What high-ranking official position do you hold in the city now? You must be earning quite a fortune each month. Sister Ashley chuckled awkwardly. Granny Lynn, I'm not an official. I teach at an elementary school downtown. Hello, teacher. Good day, professor. Granny nodded repeatedly before eagerly pressing further. That monthly salary must be several hundred yuan, right? She tentatively suggested what she considered an astronomical figure. Ashley chuckled softly, shaking her head before revealing the actual figure. The number hit Grandma like a thunderbolt. She staggered slightly, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. That single month's earnings surpassed what she could save from a whole year of backbreaking farm work. Teaching actually pays this well, she murmured to herself, her eyes shifting from shock to ecstasy. After Ashley picked up her parents, Grandma dashed home like the wind. Her gaze locked onto me with unsettling intensity. The way she looked at me had changed, no longer seeing me as worthless trash, but as a golden goose. Alina, you go study. Grandma will pay for your education. Someday you'll become a teacher like Ashley and drive your own car. My breath was ragged, but I forced calm into my voice. I'll do whatever Grandma says. Grandma nodded approvingly and called me a good child. The night before departure, I was giving Mother a sponge bath. Tears streamed uncontrollably down Mother's face. My dear, don't go to school. You mustn't go. What will become of me after you're gone? I met her gaze with a newfound determination, making the same earnest promise my brother once did. Mom, Grandma said I'll become a teacher, make good money, and then get you treated. Mom burst into tears again, her eyes filled with despair. 08. Grandma gave me tuition money and living expenses for a month. Her fingers trembled as she counted the money, murmuring under her breath, This is all for your education, Alina. You must make us proud. Hide it carefully. Don't let anyone steal it. I moved into an 8-person dorm room, crowded and noisy, yet heaven in my eyes. I practically devoured books with insatiable hunger. Every morning I'd rise first, memorizing vocabulary and texts on the playground bathed in dawnlight. In class, my eyes remained glued to the teacher and blackboard, terrified of missing a single word, reading under the covers with a flashlight after lights out. My classmates often say education can't change one's destiny these days. I don't buy that. Not for me. Education will surely change my destiny. First monthly break. Clutching my hard-saved money, I boarded the tractor back to the village. When I got home, I saw Grandma basking in the sun in the yard. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Then she sprang to her feet briskly. Alina, did you have exams? How'd they go? Good grades. I froze momentarily before replying. We had monthly exams. I ranked top 3. Grandma murmured to herself. Top 3. Does that mean you'll qualify to become a teacher? I nodded firmly. Yes, it can. Grandma was overjoyed, clasping her hands and bowing toward the sky. It works. This time it really works. I was puzzled. Where's Mom? Grandma's face darkened. Don't mention that good for nothing. She remarried. Come, let me show you something special. Before I could react, she grabbed my hand and dragged me toward Mom's room. I was still processing Mom's marriage announcement when, the moment we entered, a hissing sound pierced the air. My scalp prickled when I focused on the source. Mom's bed lay empty, her figure nowhere to be seen. In its place stood an iron cage. Inside the cage slithered a massive cobra, spotting us. It reared up with a menacing hiss. Grandma finally figured it out. Our family kept losing members because our karmic debts were too heavy. We needed living energy to counteract it. That's why we had to keep snakes alive. Only then could our household fortune prosper. See how well you've done. Passing the teacher's exam with such grades. That's all thanks to Grandma keeping those snakes. Grandma became so excited she started dancing around, bowing repeatedly to the cobra in its cage. I stared at this bizarre scene, my mind drifting back to the bright classrooms of my school. It felt like being in hell at that moment. I only learned about it the next day from neighbors. Grandma actually married Mom off. They say she was sent to the neighboring village, married off to an old bachelor named Wu. In an instant, vivid scenes unfolded from the depths of my soul. Something seemed to explode in my ears. The drunken leer of that old bachelor. The blows raining down upon me, an abyss of darkness and despair. And now, has my pitiful, wretched mother become the one to endure it all? I didn't go see her. Instead, I stayed home keeping Grandma company and soothing her. My voice carried a tinge of concern. Granny, the teacher in town said snakes do have spiritual nature, but feeding them requires special care. You can't just feed them anyhow. They say midnight's when energy peaks. That's when they're most spiritual and hungriest. Feeding them then works best. Grandma immediately grew anxious. There's really such a belief. I nodded firmly. The teacher said so. Grandma kept nodding. That teacher makes so much money, she must know what she's talking about. From now on, I'll feed you at noon sharp, guaranteed to bring you better fortune. I smiled and thanked Grandma. Grandma patted my head and said, my dear granddaughter, when you become a teacher someday, you must take me for rides in a car and let me live in a big house. 9. I had only been back at school for 3 days. News of Grandma's accident reached us from the village. When I got home, the whole village had gathered at my doorstep. What a tragedy, killed by the very dragon she raised. If you ask me, heaven's justice caught up with that madwoman. Someone who caused her son and grandson's deaths and sold off her daughter-in-law deserves no better fate. They fell silent upon my arrival. Grandma lay on the courtyard ground, covered with a white cloth. Her forehead bore injuries, her face was livid, and 2 distinct wounds marked her neck. Beside her lay the battered corpse of a cobra. Mom, I knelt before her, wailing uncontrollably, sobbing for having finally escaped the darkness, crying out that I could finally reach the light freely. I became the object of everyone's pity. The village sent a considerable amount of condolence money. The next day, I wrapped my grandmother's body in a straw mat. With the villagers' help, we buried her alongside Dad and little brother. When I got home, I found Grandma's money box. Counting all the worn bills together, it came to over 30,000, enough to see me through high school. I knew 10,000 of that was blood money from selling Mother. On the eve of my departure, I entered Mother's room. Bloodstains marked the iron snake cage. The wire securing the cage door still clung to its frame. Clearly, the cobra had squeezed through the loosened gap in the door. Beneath my feet lay a few unremarkable round pebbles. Oh, Granny, how could you be so careless? You slipped. I left, moved into the school dormitory. It was like flipping a switch inside me. My whole being felt renewed. My grades kept improving. 3 years of high school, 4 years of college. After entering the workforce, I landed an enviable job where my exceptional talents earned me an annual salary in the millions. 10. What took me completely by surprise was, somehow, my mother managed to track me down through unknown channels. I hadn't been actively keeping tabs on her. Her sudden appearance before me took me completely by surprise. What's more, she had a little boy with her. The boy was skin and bones, looking terribly sickly. Mom's eyes lit up the moment she saw me all dressed up. My Alina, I've finally found you. Come here. This is your baby brother Finn. Finn, say hello to your big sister. I saw the shadow of that old bachelor Wu in the boy's face. It suddenly hit me. The reason Mom survived domestic violence was bearing him a son. Clearly, she's got tougher skin than I ever will. They were drawing too much attention, so I escorted them out of the office. In the cafe, the upscale and elegant atmosphere made Mom visibly uncomfortable, yet she was pleasantly surprised. Growing more impressed by my capabilities. What about his father? Hatred flashed in Mother's eyes. Dead, crushed by bricks at the construction site. At least we got compensation money. She turned to the little boy with tears welling up instantly. But your brother's been sickly since birth. No amount of money would ever be enough, I sneered, with her body still suffering from snake venom after effects. How could any child she bears be healthy? Mother clutched my hand. Her eyes brimming with tears. Alina, you must save your brother. I shook my head faintly. He's not my brother. My brother was Bobby. He's dead, not some Finn. The moment I spoke, Mother's face twisted with fury. Her voice suddenly rose sharply. Alina, don't forget I gave birth to you. And Finn too. Taking care of him is your natural duty. You should spend your hard-earned money on his medical treatment, education, and later his marriage and home. That's what being an elder sister means. What's the point of a daughter making so much money? It'll all go to another family someday. Your brother is our only hope for the future. I watched my mother's furious expression. Only then did I realize she'd always been that son-preferring mother. Not even her graying hair had changed that. This time, she wasn't here to acknowledge her daughter. She came hunting for her son's meal ticket. I chuckled. Let's not get into all that now. Let's go home. Mom thought I'd taken her words to heart. She cheerfully followed me back home. How can you live in such a rundown place? Mom was visibly shocked. Looking around the damp, dimly lit basement, I said innocently, this is prime real estate in the city. With my meager monthly salary, I'm lucky to afford even this. This basement was my first home after college graduation. It witnessed my toughest years. After earning the money, I went ahead and bought it. It serves as a reminder to never forget my roots and cherish what I have now. Mom snapped angrily. So you're broke, yet you still had money for your brother's treatment, and then you go flaunt yourself at cafes. I can't believe you. I forced a smile. Mom, your daughter's just an ordinary office worker. Going to cafes was just my way of welcoming you home. Mom's face darkened. A daughter is just a daughter. No matter how book smart she gets, she'll never be a breadwinner. She'll never measure up to a son. I reassured her. Mom, make do here for now. I'll crash at the office and send you half my salary every month for Finn's treatment. The medical care in big cities is decent. There's real hope he could recover. Mom was still hesitant, but hearing about the superior health care in the city, she reluctantly agreed through gritted teeth. 11. Mom settled down with her precious son. She found herself a waitressing job at a restaurant every month. She'd promptly remind me to transfer 3,000 yuan to her. I kept my word, making sure the money reached her account on time, even with her salary added. Their monthly income barely exceeds 7,000 yuan. For Finn's medical condition, it's always been a drop in the bucket. I've looked into his health condition. Due to toxins from his mother's body, Finn suffers from severe heart and liver problems, along with critically compromised immune function. Life hangs by a thread of medication. The end clearly in sight. Time flies by. Eventually, that day arrived. I got a call from Mom. She was wailing inconsolably. Finn's gone. He's really gone. I couldn't save him. Sobbing. 12. Finn was cremated. Clutching his ashes, Mother collapsed onto the bed and fell gravely ill. I finally understood even the toughest spirit has its breaking point. After all, her entire reason for living had vanished. I couldn't bear seeing Mother suffer. So I rescued her from that dingy basement and brought her to my lavishly decorated penthouse. Mother's clouded eyes widened to their fullest. Her breathing grew ragged as bony fingers trembled in accusation toward me. Alina, you lied to me. You're actually this wealthy. The corners of my mouth curled up. That's right. I'm rich now. And I'll be even richer. Mom went berserk, screaming at me hysterically. Then why didn't you save Finn? Why didn't you save him? He's your own blood brother. How could you be so heartless? I scoffed. That bastard's son is only precious to you. What's he to me? Had it been a daughter, you'd probably have drowned her with your own hands. Mom, I know you've always favored sons. Sometimes I'm genuinely happy for you. When you die someday, your two precious boys will surely come greet you in the afterlife. What bliss. Mother fainted from sheer rage. I rushed her to the hospital and they managed to revive her. Pity her health had always been fragile. This time, he could never rise again. After that, I never went to see her again. Just 2 weeks later, I received news of her death while dining by candlelight with a suitor. My heart remained utterly still. All I could think about was having a daughter someday, giving her a completely different life, everything I lacked, regretted, or never dared to ask for in my childhood. Give her everything. The end. Story 2. In my past life, I won the lottery, only to have my relatives bleed me dry of every last cent, leaving me buried in debt and beaten to death by loan sharks. Now reborn, I stare at the winning ticket in my hand. This time, I'll make them reap what they've sown. 01, 14, 15, 17, 26, 30, 02. I swallowed hard, staring transfixed at the string of numbers, my hand trembling uncontrollably as I clutched my phone. Tucked in the pocket of this jacket is the lottery ticket I bought on a whim last week. What sent chills down my spine wasn't that the winning numbers matched mine exactly. It was because a swipe down the screen revealed the date, exactly 1 year ago. 1 year before I was coerced by family and my boyfriend, stripped of every cent of my prize money, saddled with crushing debt, and beaten to death by loan sharks who came to collect, and it all started because I foolishly revealed my lottery win to others. Back then, naive me thought sharing the good news with my family and boyfriend, the people closest to me, would bring joy. Little did I know that very act would become the death warrant that pushed me into hell when I bought this lottery ticket. My brother mocked me, saying my shabby appearance meant I'd never have the luck to win, but the moment he heard about my jackpot, he rushed out overnight to check out the best school district homes for my nephew. Even my sister-in-law, who usually gives me the cold shoulder, surprisingly prepared a table full of delicious dishes. She kept piling meat on my plate during dinner. Normally, she'd roll her eyes if I dared take an extra bite. My dad told me it wasn't safe for a girl to claim the prize. So he snatched the ticket and eagerly went to cash it himself. He even had the reporters swarming the lottery station take a big photo of him to show off to his old buddies. Not only that, he transferred all the prize money into his own bank account without my consent. Once the news broke, scam calls and messages flooded in. Despite my repeated warnings, he fell for a trick and signed up for a bunch of auto-debit services. The 10 million yen prize was 8 million yen after taxes, but when we checked, over yen 500,000 had already been deducted by shady software. Left with no other choice, my dad finally agreed to transfer the money back to my account. On the day I claimed the prize, my mom made countless calls, spreading the news of my lottery win to every relative under the sun. From then on, my phone never stopped ringing. Relatives came up with all sorts of excuses to squeeze money out of me, from my uncle needing a loan for my cousin's apartment to my younger cousin's family struggling to afford her art school tuition. Even distant relatives I'd never heard of tracked down my home address, showing up with expired milk and fruit baskets containing nothing but apples. One even claimed our ancestors had arranged a marriage between us as children. After being turned away, they stubbornly hunted down the apartment I shared with my boyfriend. If my boyfriend hadn't called the police in time, that stranger might have dragged me into his room. Amidst the chaotic family drama, my boyfriend Kyle became my only lifeline. He never asked anything of me, and even fixed my dad's phone while canceling all those sneaky subscription charges. "Honey, are you coming home tonight? I got that taro cake you love from our usual spot, with double the taro filling." A notification popped up on my phone, and there it was, a message from my boyfriend. "I'm staying at my place tonight. Enjoy the cake for me, sweetheart." I typed these words with a blank expression, feeling sick to my stomach. That smooth-talking man is no good either. I'll never forget that day when I accidentally saw a group message pop up on my boyfriend's phone. He had secretly taken photos of me and shared them in his so-called bros group, followed by a flood of disgusting comments. Even the sob story about his rural mother being seriously ill and needing money for chemotherapy, which tricked me into sending him funds, was something his buddies in that group coached him on step by step. Reading those messages felt like a bolt from the blue. I rushed to confront my boyfriend, only to be coldly shoved away. "Isla, don't push your luck. If I didn't take pity on you, what other man would want you? You're neither pretty nor have a good figure. I'm embarrassed to be seen with you. You've blown all your lottery winnings, haven't you? How could you make such a huge decision without consulting me, using our future wedding fund to bail out your relatives? Did you even think about me?" Whatever, I can't be bothered to argue. "That's it. Don't come looking for me again." After saying all that, my boyfriend immediately blocked me and cut off contact unilaterally. I scoured all his social media platforms and had to use a burner account just to see his latest post. Turns out he'd used the money he scammed from me to buy a new car and was already dating someone new. I reached into my pocket, and there it was, the lottery ticket that would change my life. Still lying quietly inside. Mom. Just look at her, thinking she hit the jackpot. That good-for-nothing is lucky if she doesn't end up in debt. And that guy she's dating, total deadbeat. Last time he came over, all he brought was a carton of milk. If I remember right, my brother stood by the kitchen door peeling garlic, sneering and making sarcastic remarks. "Let me make this clear, if you two get married someday, don't expect our family to spend a single penny on you." I ignored my brother. In the past, I would have defended my boyfriend, but now I refuse to say one good word about that scumbag. My mother tried to smooth things over. "Don't talk to your sister like that. I think that young man seems decent enough. He's quite articulate." My brother shot me a disdainful look. "You're spoiling her, Mom. She just comes home all day with nothing to do, and we have to feed her too, Mom. Has she even paid her share of the household expenses this month?" Paid up, all 1,000, not a penny more. Not a penny less. As she said this, my mom pulled out her phone to transfer the money right there, proving it to my brother. TCH, ping, and I both paid 1,000 each. This money has to stretch for the whole family, by rights. Since we're two separate households now, we paid 2,000. You should be paying 2,000. Coming around this often after only paying 1,000, trying to eat your money back. Hearing my brother say that made me furious. My parents left their house to him and his family. All these years, the money I've scrimped and saved from my salary was just enough for a down payment on a small two-bedroom. The place has been sitting empty because I can't afford to furnish it. Every time I talk to my family about it, not only are they unsupportive, but they also complain that I bought a house without consulting them. They say that since I'll eventually marry into another family and live with them, If my future husband finds out I bought a house on my own, he'll think I'm too assertive or shrewd and lose interest in me. Let's be honest, it's just that they can't control me anymore. I only come home a few times a month. How much could I possibly eat? I don't even live here normally. I have to pay rent for my own place, and my office is so far away that I can't even bring myself to take a cab to work. Meanwhile, you live and eat here every day, all on our parents' retirement savings. I pay my own way for everything. Do you have any idea how hard that is? Besides, my brother and sister-in-law haven't spent a single penny on my nephew's expenses, formula, clothes, diapers. It's all been covered by our parents. Sometimes, if my brother sees an expensive toy he likes, he'll send it to me and say that, as the aunt, I should buy my nephew something nice and presentable. So what if they contribute more? In the end, my mom would still sneak the money back to my brother, just to put on a show for his wife. She always saves it for him privately. My brother would either use that money to go gambling or spend it on eating and drinking with his no-good friends. Hey, I'm your older brother. I say a couple things to you, and you have the nerve to talk back. Looks like I didn't hit you enough when you were a kid. My brother made a move like he was about to hit me, but my mom stepped in between us. What are you doing? Your sister rarely comes home, and you're picking a fight with her. My mom turned around and started scolding me. Isla, don't argue with your brother. He's a grown man with a wife and kids, working hard to support the family. He has it much tougher than you do as a young woman. You should be more considerate of him. Feel sorry for him, even though he racked up gambling debts. I, as his sister, had to endlessly bail him out. They even took my house, mortgaged and auctioned it off. I came home to find myself locked out, alone, facing loan sharks who beat me to death. When I was screaming for help, did any of my family on the other side of that door ever care? Mom, you were right. I shouldn't have talked back to my brother. Just you wait and see. As the sole breadwinner, he works so hard to provide for our family. I should be more understanding. Let's see how this leech of a brother reaps what he sows. The sound of keys turning in the lock came from the doorway. My sister-in-law was back with my nephew from school. What brings Isla here? As soon as my sister-in-law saw me, her face fell, and my little nephew also looked at me with displeasure. Auntie is here again. Now I can't even sleep in my own room. So annoying. My mom hurried over to comfort my nephew. Oh, sweetie, Owen, your aunt is leaving tomorrow. You can sleep with Grandma and Grandpa tonight. It's been so long since I last got to cuddle with my darling grandson. There are only 3 rooms in the house. My nephew's bedroom used to be mine, but while I was away at college, my brother and sister-in-law converted it into a nursery. I lived in this house for 18 years, but now there's no longer a room for me. Later, when I started working locally, I moved out and rented a place. Mom, forget it. I'd better just leave. I stood up to leave, but my mom stopped me. What's the rush? There's plenty of room for you to stay. Owen, let your aunt sleep in your room for the night. Didn't you say you wanted that $1,000 game last time? Your aunt said she'd buy it for you. I stared at my mom in disbelief. My salary isn't that much. Why would I go crazy spending $1,000 on a game for my nephew? That's almost a month's rent for me. I said, Mom, what kind of game costs that much? It sounds like a scam. My little nephew was so frantic he started stamping his feet. It's not a game, it's a game skin. Auntie, you're so out of touch. It's not a scam, everyone in my class has won. Jack's got top 10 on the last exam, and his mom bought him that premium skin. Of course I knew what it was. In my past life, after finding out I'd won the lottery, my nephew peeked at my payment password, took my phone, and bought hundreds of game skins overnight, costing me over $100,000 in one go. When I caught him, he lied and denied it, claiming he didn't know how the payment went through. When I threatened to file for a minor refund, he threw a full-blown tantrum. My brother and sister-in-law called me heartless, saying I'd gotten all that money for nothing and couldn't even spare a few bucks for my own nephew. My little nephew clung to me desperately, crying and screaming until I was dizzy, and in the end, I had to just let it go. I looked at my utterly spoiled and defiant little nephew and asked, So, do you think you can make it into the top 10? In his last exam, my nephew only scored 30 in math. He's been at the bottom of the class for ages. Forget top 10, even breaking out of the bottom 10 is a stretch. Sure enough, as soon as I said that, he immediately deflated and ran off to throw a tantrum in front of my mom. Grandma, you lied. Auntie won't buy it for me, and I won't let her stay in my room. My sister-in-law cut in. Enough. Your aunt is being stingy with you because you're not living up to expectations. She's embarrassed just looking at your test scores. All you do is compete with your classmates over games, food, and clothes. Why don't you try competing in academics? If you end up at the bottom of the class again, your dad will be the one going to the next parent-teacher meeting. Don't give me that look. Go do your homework. Wah. The little nephew ran back to his room crying, slammed the door shut with a loud bang, and locked it from the inside. My brother heard the noise from the kitchen and came out to ask what was going on. What do you mean, what's going on? My sister-in-law shot him a glare and said, Your son spends all day gaming instead of studying. Must be those lousy genes from your side of the family. After saying that, she glanced at me. Isla, Owen is being difficult. He'll probably be too upset to come out tonight. Maybe it's best if you just go back and sleep at your own place. I let out a cold laugh. This time I didn't tell them about the lottery news. Now I'm not even welcome in my own family home. It's alright, sis-in-law. I've got things to do later. I'll leave right after dinner. My nephew was throwing a tantrum and refused to come out, leaving just 4 of us at the table, the moment I picked up a chicken wing. My sister-in-law moved the plate away and pushed the tofu with cabbage toward me instead. Isla, have more vegetables. Owen really loves these chicken wings. He's still growing. If you take one more piece, that's one less for him. You're a grown adult. Surely you wouldn't fight a child for meat. My brother chimed in. Exactly. Do you have any idea how expensive meat is these days? If you want to eat it, buy it yourself. Don't just freeload off us. I just smiled without saying a word. Ordered myself a double cheeseburger and bubble tea for delivery, put down my chopsticks, and said, actually, I'm not that hungry, you all go ahead and eat. The others kept eating without a hint of guilt. By the time they finished, there was hardly any food left on the table. My sister-in-law and my mom started clearing the dishes. My sister-in-law saw me sitting on the couch and said, Isla, come give me a hand and wash the dishes. I didn't even eat the meal. Yet I'm expected to do the dishes. Did I come here to be a free live-in maid? Just leave it there, sis-in-law, I said dismissively. My sister-in-law was so used to bossing me around that she didn't suspect a thing. Right then, my food delivery arrived. My brother saw me come back inside carrying something and asked what I'd bought. I ordered takeout, and I'm getting a bit hungry now. I pulled out the burger and started digging in. My brother saw this, walked over, shook the paper bag on the table, and said, how selfish, you only ordered for yourself. I looked at him, puzzled. Didn't you all already eat? My brother shamelessly retorted, so you're just going to let us sit here and watch you eat? You're really okay with that? I shot back, wasn't I just watching you guys eat too? My brother brushed it off, that's because you didn't want any, don't make it sound like we're mistreating you. I finished the last bite of my burger and sipped my milk tea leisurely. If I wanted some, I would have bought it myself. If you want some, just order your own. Bro, I'm not stopping you. You're a grown man. No need to fight me for a piece of meat. Upon hearing this, my brother flew into a rage, crumpled the paper bag into a ball, and hurled it right in front of me. How could I be like you, only thinking about your own pleasure? The little money I earn isn't even enough for myself. Yet I have to prioritize providing for the family, and look at you, refusing to eat a proper meal and ordering takeout instead. What a waste of money. Staring at his furious face, I couldn't help but recall my past life. Even when I had money, I always felt guilty whenever I spent it, all because no matter what I bought, my brother would scold me for being wasteful and accuse me of not considering the family. I foolishly believed my brother's words and thought that the lottery winnings didn't belong to me personally but to the entire family. It wasn't until the very end that I realized this family only treats me like kin when they need me. The moment they don't, I become an outsider. To my brother, any money not spent on him is considered wasteful spending, I said, since you put it that way. I'll go check if there's any leftover food in the kitchen. Honestly, I didn't really eat my fill. My sister-in-law overheard and quickly interjected, there aren't any leftovers, we only saved a bite for Owen. Didn't you buy yourself a burger? A young lady shouldn't eat so much if she wants to watch her figure. I knew my sister-in-law would stop me. To them, I'm like a rat stealing grain. They're always on guard against me no matter where I go. My little nephew came out of his room, hungry, and spotted the takeout bag in front of me. He exclaimed excitedly, there's a burger. He eagerly rummaged through the delivery bag, but of course, there was nothing inside. Where's the burger? I want to eat a burger. My nephew flew into a rage instantly. My sister-in-law came over and tugged at the little boy. Owen, we don't eat junk food. I made you some chicken wings today. Come and have them. The little nephew stubbornly squatted on the ground, refusing to move away from the takeout bag. No, I want the burger. My sister-in-law couldn't drag my little nephew along, so she had to coax him to walk. Be good, Owen. Mom cooked some shrimp for you. It's in the kitchen. I'll bring it out for you. No wonder she didn't want me going into the kitchen. She was hiding something and didn't want me to find out. Seeing how upset my nephew was, she quickly offered the shrimp to calm him down. My brother shot me a glare and said, it's all your fault. You've been a bad influence on Owen. We can't count on an ungrateful person like you. Take your stuff and get out. After finishing my meal, I got up, gathered my things, and said to my brother, you made a good point earlier. It really doesn't make sense for me to keep contributing to household expenses when I'm not even living at home. Starting today, I'll transfer you $200 a month. That's my final offer. With that, I turned and walked away, shutting the door on my brother's protests to claim the lottery prize. I had to go to the provincial lottery center. I took the day off and booked an early morning high-speed train ticket for the next day. That evening, I returned to my rented apartment. The moment I opened the door, I saw takeout containers carelessly tossed on the floor, with sauce seeping through the bags and staining my brand new rug. On the table sat a taro cake piled right next to a heap of smelly socks. Kyle, my boyfriend, was in the living room with his hair a complete mess, gaming with headphones on. He kept muttering insults about his teammates being useless. I'm home. He didn't even flinch, completely glued to his computer screen. In the past, I would have cleaned up my boyfriend's mess before going back to the room. Now, all I can think is, how on earth did I ever set my eyes on such a slob? He deserves to rot and stink along with the trash. I turned around and noticed my boyfriend's phone lying on the couch. I glanced at him, seized the chance to pick it up, slipped it into my pocket, and carefully slipped back out the door, hiding in the stairwell. I unlocked his phone using his own birthday as the passcode. Opening the WeChat group, I saw these disgusting men sharing private information about women, some of whom were even engaged to them. Every woman in the group chat was assigned a code name, but their age, height, appearance, and occupation were documented in meticulous detail. It felt as if several men were secretly observing them. Every piece of private information was laid bare, and that included me. I used my own phone to take photos of the evidence, so I could reach out to these women later and ensure they wouldn't be deceived any longer. Of course, I didn't let that scumbag off the hook either. After all, he was the source of those chat logs. If this ever came to light, I wonder if his so-called friends would still have his back when I returned. My boyfriend was still glued to his video game, looking like he was in for an all-nighter. With Monday morning around the corner, he'd undoubtedly be rushing off to work. I tossed his phone next to the takeout trash, the one spot he's too lazy to ever check. Before my boyfriend noticed me, I slipped back into my own room. The next day, he dragged himself to work with dark circles under his eyes, and the mess was still there when I left. I sifted through the trash on the floor and found his phone. After removing the SIM card, I tossed the phone into a street bin. Trash belongs in the trash. I found these women on social media and anonymously sent them screenshots of the chat history. I hope they see the person in front of them for who they really are and stop being deceived by these scumbags. At noon, an unknown number called. Hey, Isla, it's Kyle. I lost my phone and I've turned my office and home upside down looking for it. I feigned surprise and said, oh no. Maybe you dropped it on the way. Why don't you retrace your steps and look for it? Urgency filled the other end of the line as my boyfriend snapped. I was crammed in the subway this morning. If I lost it, there's no way I'd find it again. Where are you now? Go buy me a new phone and bring it home. I need it ASAP. I replied calmly. If you lost your phone, you'll need to get your SIM card reissued too, right? He said. I already got the SIM card replaced earlier. Just the phone is missing now. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at his words. Does he really think I'm his personal ATM? He knows how to go to the service center to get a SIM card replaced, but somehow can't manage to buy himself a phone while he's at it. I said hesitantly, right now, I can't. I'm away on a business trip. On the other end of the line, my boyfriend hesitated. Of all days to be away. I transferred most of the money in my account to my parents a while back and don't have much left. How about you send me some money for now? I'll treat you to something nice next month when I get my paycheck. Okay, sweetie. Hearing my boyfriend's whiny voice sent a shiver down my spine. My boyfriend never told me about his savings, and I never asked, but he's always complaining about being broke, saying he gave money to his parents or lent it to friends. Basically, he never has enough. I cover almost all our rent. And whenever he wants something, I end up saving up to buy it for him. Too bad for him. This time, things aren't going his way. I'm done being the sucker. Babe, you know how it is. I just paid this month's rent, and yesterday my brother hit me up for money again. My account's pretty much empty. Maybe just get a cheaper one on installments. Ugh, sorry. Something's come up. Gotta go. I hung up before the other person could even speak. At the lottery center. The staff verified my information and looked at me with envy. A guy behind the counter gave me a pat on the shoulder. You're one lucky girl. It's our policy that all big lottery winners make a donation. You seem like a good soul. Keeping such a windfall without giving back would be bad karma. That sounded like a load of nonsense to me. Back when my dad got the money, he mentioned someone tried to get him to donate. Given his miserly nature, if anyone dared ask him for money, he'd stand there cursing them out for 2 hours straight. This world preys on the weak but fears the strong. People won't dare provoke troublemakers, but they have no problem taking advantage of good-hearted folks. I tapped the documents away and said, no thanks, I've never had much luck to begin with. The other person snapped, hey, you're one stubborn girl, can't be reasoned with, looks can be deceiving, how can you be so selfish? This money fell right into your lap. Let's be real, it's public funds. Instead of giving back, you want to keep it all. Don't bite off more than you can chew. What's a young girl like you going to do with that much money anyway? I shot him a glance. Hey man, don't be so possessive about other people's money. If you're really that selfless, the money you earn belongs to the public too. Why don't you donate some of yours? The guy wouldn't let up, following me down the street. When he saw I was keeping my head down and ignoring him, he started getting even more aggressive. This is dirty money you've got here, you'll pay for taking it. Young women these days are so scheming, every single one obsessed with money. Watch out, you might get this cash but not live to spend it. I stopped in my tracks and gave him a cold stare. If you really believe that, go post those words at the lottery shop's entrance. But before you do, I pulled out my phone from my pocket. which was still recording. "I'm going to sue you, and as it happens, I've got plenty of money to do it." The guy immediately shut his mouth and sulkily retreated behind the counter. Only when the 8 million hit my account did I finally feel completely at ease. That evening, right after I got off the high-speed train, I received a call from the hospital saying my boyfriend was injured and that I needed to get there right away. Before I even stepped into the hospital room, I could hear shouting and cursing from inside. "You son of a bitch, you're trying to screw me over. Was it you who sent the chat logs to my girlfriend? You knew damn well we're getting married next month, and you pulled this shit. I'm telling you, if you ruin this wedding for me, forget about one arm, I'll break both your goddamn legs." Kyle, now my girlfriend knows I took those photos of her. She's going to the police and threatening to sue me. If I end up in jail, you're going down with me. My boyfriend lay battered and bruised in the hospital bed, his arm wrapped in bandages, pleading desperately with the others. "Brothers, even if you gave me 10 times the courage, I wouldn't dare do such a thing. I really lost my phone this morning. My girlfriend will be here soon to confirm it. There's no way I could have been the one who tipped off your wives." Through the door crack, I saw someone grab my boyfriend by the collar. Dressed in his hospital gown, he shrank like a terrified mouse, tucking his head down with panic-stricken eyes. "You think you can fool us? What a load of crap. My girl got a message today, and you just happened to lose your phone. So some stranger finds your phone and instead of selling it, they take the time to message other men's women. You think we're stupid?" My boyfriend looked miserable, and when he noticed me at the door, it was as if he had seen a savior. "Isla, you're back." I pushed the door open and asked casually with concern, "Honey, what happened? Why are you in the hospital?" My boyfriend said anxiously, "Isla, you have to back me up. I lost my phone today, right? I told you about it earlier, didn't I?" In the hospital room, those men stared at me, waiting for my answer. "When did you lose your phone?" I feigned confusion. "Did you even tell me?" "I don't remember." Hearing this, the men turned their heads in unison toward my boyfriend with a look that said he was done for. In a panic, he scrambled off the bed, not even bothering to put on his shoes, and grabbed my hand tightly. No, think harder. I called you using the security guard's phone downstairs. I even asked you to buy me a new phone. Don't you remember?" I pulled my hand back as if suddenly realizing something, and slapped my boyfriend's injured arm, making him howl in pain. "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. I forgot you were hurt. Now that you mention it, I do remember you calling. Don't be mad. I was on a business trip and swamped with work, so I didn't really catch what you said. How about I go with you now to buy a new phone?" My boyfriend turned to the group excitedly, defending himself. "See, guys, my girlfriend just confirmed it. I really did lose my phone. It's not my fault. Who knows what someone might do with it?" Seeing that the others still looked skeptical, I deliberately softened my voice, putting on a sweet and caring act. "Yeah, fellas, give my Kyle a break. He's a straight shooter and never lies. You've definitely got the wrong guy." At my words, the men shot me disdainful looks. They were all cut from the same cloth. Each of them had been dumped over those chat logs, and yet here was this guy, probably the mastermind, being shielded by his woman. Someone couldn't take it anymore and asked me, "Hey, have you gotten any messages or screenshots of the chats?" My boyfriend quickly cut in, "Dude, what are you saying to her?" I scrolled through my phone's chat windows a few times and looked at them innocently. What message was it sent to me? I didn't receive anything. Seeing this, someone immediately stepped forward and shoved my boyfriend, snarling, "You sly dog. Kyle, I knew you were up to no good. You dragged us all through the mud while you were off happily chasing girls. You're just jealous that we landed some lookers." Those guys, having nothing left to lose, were determined to drag my boyfriend down with them, and their attitude toward me suddenly turned earnest. "Listen, girl, let me be straight with you. You think your boyfriend's some kind of saint. He's always telling us you're frumpy and dressed like a mess. Says the only reason he hasn't dumped you is because you're good at taking care of him, and you should see the pathetic way he fawns over other pretty girls when you're not around." Finally, I had every reason to dump this scumbag. Feigning shock, I exclaimed, "Kyle, how could you do this to me? After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? I'm so disappointed." "We're through." With that, I stormed out the door, while my boyfriend was intercepted by that group of people. Once outside the hospital, I immediately blocked all of my boyfriend's contact information. I quickly packed up my things from the rental, moved into my new apartment, and even changed my phone number. That lowlife won't get anywhere near my life from now on. Over a month later, my mom and brother showed up at my workplace. "Isla, we finally found you. Why wasn't your phone going through?" I gave my brother a skeptical look. "What's this about?" My brother patted my shoulder with feigned warmth. "Nothing serious. Just inviting you home for dinner tonight. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." Sure enough, my brother brought up my 2-bedroom apartment over dinner. I remember, "Isla, your place is out by the Outer Ring Road, right? You really hit the jackpot with that one. Who would have thought such an out-of-the-way little apartment would end up right where Mingxing High School decided to open a new campus? And by the time it's built, Owen will be just the right age for middle school." Talk about perfect timing. My brother was beaming, as though he'd stumbled upon the opportunity of a lifetime. Honestly, You should have discussed buying a house with the family first. If you'd told me earlier, do you really think I wouldn't have supported you? I might have even pitched in 50 or 100 grand. I let out a cold laugh. My brother was always full of empty promises, quick to talk big but the first to disappear when things got real. Playing dumb, I said. If you're interested in buying a place over there, I can send you the real estate agent's contact info. My brother quickly cut me off. You have no idea, that area has become a school district now, and prices have shot up. Besides, why would I need to buy when you already have a place? We're family. What's yours is ours. Just as I expected, my brother has his eyes on my apartment again, I said, but Owen's household registration isn't even here, and besides, he's not my child. How can he use my property's school district? Honestly, bro, you and your wife should really focus on buying a place there yourselves. Seeing that I wasn't budging, my brother decided to lay all his cards on the table. Just transfer the property under my name for now to sort out Owen's schooling. I'll give it back to you later. No problem. My sister-in-law kept putting food on my plate while chiming in. That's right, Isla, we're not asking to use your place for free, since your apartment hasn't been renovated yet. How about your brother and I cover the renovation costs for you? In my past life, they used this exact excuse to take over the apartment I bought. They even moved in without a second thought when my nephew started school there. Every time I brought up the apartment, they'd accuse me of being stingy despite having more money, saying how petty I was to want back such a small place. Eventually, they outright denied owing me anything, claiming they paid for all the renovations and demanding $2 million from me to buy it back. I put down my chopsticks and said, "Sis, even brothers keep accounts clear. How will we handle the renovation costs you're offering? And if Owen goes to school there, does that mean he'll be staying at my place?" Hearing this, my brother got upset and tapped his chopsticks on the table. "What do you mean by that? Your nephew is in school, and as his aunt, you're not lifting a finger to help. You're the only college graduate in this family. I asked you to tutor him. And look how that turned out. He's consistently at the bottom of his class. If you ask me, half the blame lies with you. Every time I came home from college during winter or summer break, my brother would have me tutor my little nephew. If I gave him just 10 extra math problems, my nephew would throw a tantrum, saying it was too much. My sister-in-law would see how upset he was and tell me not to overload him, insisting I stick to the school's assigned homework the moment homework time starts. My nephew either fidgets with his eraser or suddenly needs to use the bathroom. Every time I scold him, my sister-in-law immediately jumps to his defense, either coaxing him into quitting for the day or telling him to go eat first. Eventually, my nephew stopped listening to me altogether. Nothing I said made a difference. He kept dragging his feet with homework just as he pleased. My brother then snapped at me, saying all my years of education were wasted since I couldn't even teach elementary schooler properly. I retorted, "He's not my child, and I didn't raise him. How is half of this my responsibility? He refuses to study, won't listen to his teachers at school, and doesn't obey you or my sister-in-law at home. Are you seriously blaming me for all that?" My sister-in-law frowned and said, "Isla, that's going too far. How can you say Owen doesn't listen? Boys will be boys. Your brother was exactly the same at that age, and look how well he turned out." I looked at my brother, this man who's indulged in every vice from drinking to womanizing. Last time he got caught flirting with someone on his phone by my sister-in-law, and she still called him dependable. "Honestly, he's beyond hope," I said. "Since you all think Owen is so well behaved, why not have him study hard and try for the international school across the street?" My sister-in-law looked uneasy, pursed her lips, and spoke in a much softer voice. "That's a private school. It's not like just anyone can get in." The couple fell silent, and my mother chimed in, "Isla, your brother and sister-in-law are only thinking of Owen's best interests. You can't just stand by and watch our Owen end up with no school to attend. If you're really that attached to your apartment, why not have Owen transfer the property under your name first? Let's get the child enrolled first. As for the housing situation, your father and I will figure something out. If needed, we can always rent a place over there for the time being. It's only a few years for the child's schooling. It won't inconvenience you much." Seated at the head of the table, my father finally spoke up after everyone else had their say, making the decision with the authority of the family head. "Owen's schooling must be resolved, Isla, as part of this family. You can't just stand aside when you should be lending a hand. That's not how our family operates. I'm settling this matter. We'll get the household registration sorted out in the next few days." Seeing that my father had spoken, my brother and sister-in-law were overjoyed. It seems they've made up their minds to put the house under my name for my nephew's sake. Looking at everyone around the table, I felt a chill run down my spine. Family ties only hold hostage those with a conscience, forcing them to compromise again and again, yet no one ever truly makes up for what's lost. They're counting on my soft heart, knowing I can't bring myself to refuse when it comes to the child's education. I said sternly, "I won't agree to this." My parents looked stunned, as if they never expected me to outright refuse. My brother's face fell, and he gritted his teeth, saying, "Isla, what's wrong with you? Mom and Dad have already agreed to this. Why do you still have objections?" Since when do you get to call the shots in this family? That's right, in this family, a daughter is nothing but a lifelong appendage. Everything I have is stamped with this family's mark, yet not a single thing in this house truly belongs to me. When I was in college, I only got 500 yuan a month for living expenses, but after my brother started working, my mom still gave him an extra 2,000 every month. When I found out, she said he needed money to date and eventually marry. He couldn't be broke when treating people outside, and she claimed that, as a girl, I didn't need to spend money when going out anyway. I never felt like I was trying to take advantage of anyone. The 500 bucks I had barely covered food and drinks, so I tutored to earn money for daily necessities. Half of my college years were spent scrambling to make ends meet. I always thought life would get better after I started working. But instead of relief, my earnings only invited even more exploitation from my family. I said, I bought that apartment with my own money, not a single penny from mom and dad. Why don't I get a say in this? My brother glared at me as if I were the one who'd done something wrong. Hey, what do you mean by that? Are you just going to stand by and let Owen miss out on his education? You watched him grow up. How can you be so heartless? I've heard this emotional blackmail spiel way too many times already. My nephew's schooling, my brother's debts, my parents' constant comparisons. It's always the same guilt-tripping routine, I said. The ones letting Owen down aren't me. It's you, his parents. You don't bother teaching him properly, and you're not even trying to get a place in a good school district. If he can't get into middle school, it's not me who's going to be panicking. Hearing this, my sister-in-law shot up from her chair and pointed at my brother's face, saying, Tyler, what happened to your promise? You said you'd handle our child's education, and now your sister won't agree. I'm done with your family's drama. I'm taking the kids back to my parents. If the school situation isn't sorted out, I'm divorcing you. My sister-in-law stormed out, dragging my little nephew along, and my mom couldn't stop her. She just shot me a reproachful look. Isla, you didn't have to be so harsh. Mom knows you're not a heartless person. You work hard for your money, and your dad and I haven't exactly lived off you, except for that 1,000 yuan a month for household expenses, which is just you paying back what we spent on your education. Search your conscience. Have your parents ever asked you for a single penny beyond that? A conscience? It's because I have too much of one that I'm left suffering right at my own doorstep. If I have to pay back what was spent on my education, what about my brother? How come he gets to mooch off you without a shred of guilt? What has he ever paid back? Don't think I don't know. The household money he gives you, you just slip back to him in secret. I looked at my mom and finally asked the question that had been weighing on my heart. Mom, am I not really part of this family? Seeing the hurt on my face, my mom took my hand and said earnestly, Of course you are, sweetheart. You and your brother both came from me. It's just that your brother isn't as capable as you, so I thought we should give him a little more support. We're a family. We share both the good and the hard times. Right now, the family needs you. You're not in a rush to move into your apartment, so what's the harm in letting your brother have it first? I said firmly, no. If I never get married, at least I'll have a place of my own. That's better than squeezing in here with all of you. When I said I wouldn't get married, my mother's face fell. Don't you dare say such things. If you don't get married, how are we supposed to get back the bride price we paid? The bride price. My heart clenched suddenly, and the person before me suddenly felt like a stranger. These words, even in my past life, I had never heard them spoken aloud. I couldn't help but confront them. Did you raise me all these years just to cash in on the bride price? Hearing my accusation, my parents frowned and remained silent. Their silence felt like slap after slap across my face, stinging, yet almost laughable. Seeing my disbelief, my brother sneered. What did you think, that mom and dad raised you all these years just to give you away for free? The dishes on the table steamed with warmth, yet a chill seeped deep into my bones. The person before me, bound by blood, treated me with more cruelty than a stranger. I couldn't stand another second in this disgusting place. Grabbing my bag, I practically bolted for the door. As I left, I overheard my mother say, we never should have sent her to school. It ruined her mind. Back at my own place, I crouched on the floor, gasping for air. My hand trembled as I clutched my phone, my eyes fixed on the call button. There was a number that had appeared on my phone countless times, each instance accompanied by threats and verbal abuse that pushed me to the brink of a breakdown. I never imagined that one day I would be the one dialing it. Before long, the call connected, and a man's voice came through on the other end. Who is this? I took a deep breath to steady myself. I need you to do something for me. I'll pay you 200,000 once it's done. My older brother has a gambling habit, but with limited means. He usually just plays mahjong or poker until he loses the 2,000 or 3,000 yuan he has on hand, then calls it quits. On the rare occasions he wins 1,000 or so, his so-called friends egg him on to treat everyone to a meal. They've got him figured out. They flatter him no matter what he does. In my past life, because I had money to bail him out, he started gambling online without restraint. Eventually, he couldn't pay his debts and was kidnapped, locked in a cage for 2 days and nights. To save him, my parents even knelt and begged me to give him the money, but even then, He didn't change his ways. He gave the loan sharks my phone number and personal information. When those clubs struck me, the pain was unbearable. I hadn't eaten for days because I was trying to pay off my brother's debts. I collapsed on the ground, and no one came to help. In the end, I bled to death. In my final moments, blood and tears mingled, leaving only bitterness and regret in my mouth. Yes, I hate them, this time. I can keep my money and live without a care in the world. But I'm simply not willing to accept this. Did my previous life just end in vain? Does getting a second chance mean we can pretend none of this ever happened? They haven't changed one bit. I took a deep breath and continued. There's a guy named Tyler. I'll put up an extra 100K, let him win this round. Then I'm sure you know how to make him lose every last cent. The person on the other end laughed, as if they'd never heard such a sweet deal. Got it. I'll send you an address. Bring the money. The next afternoon, I showed up at the entrance of what looked like a foreign trade company, carrying 300,000 yuan from the outside. You'd hardly guess it was a loan sharking operation. I pushed the door open. Inside, a dozen men in black suits, tall, short, stocky, lean, all turned to look at me as I walked in alone. Summoning my courage, I stepped into the inner office, where a man with a scarred face leaned back in a swivel chair, eyeing me from head to toe. Was it you who called yesterday? I set the bag on the table and pulled a photo from my pocket. Right, I've brought the 300,000. This is the guy, his name, phone number, and the address of the mahjong parlor he frequents are on the back. Scarface picked up the photo and glanced at it, his tone casual. Your number's new, not on our list. So how'd you get this contact? I frowned and asked him, is that relevant? Scarface raised an eyebrow. Nah, just curious. The man beside him finished counting the money and, after confirming the amount was correct, gave Scarface a nod. This is a legitimate business. Since you're showing such sincerity, my guys have to maintain some professional standards too. Scarface held up the photo and tapped on the person in it. How far do you want us to go with him? I looked at the person in the photo and said, let him fend for himself. Just one thing, whatever deals he makes with you from now on, or how much he owes, has nothing to do with me. Noticing the same last name on the note, Scarface understood immediately. For people like him, this kind of situation was nothing new. Don't worry, we know the drill. Within a month, my mom called me back home. The moment I stepped inside, I heard my brother scolding me. Why is your phone always unreachable? I said, my phone is in for repairs. I'm not about to tell them I changed my phone number. You're always making a fuss about something, my brother said. Pulling 10,000 bucks from his pocket and tossing it on the table, he looked at me smugly and added, this is your rent. Get Owen to transfer the title to your name, and I'll throw in another 20 grand. Call it a token of appreciation from your big bro. Well, cat got your 10 now. I really was speechless. By now, he should have walked away with 100,000, but the cheapskate only coughed up 30 when I picked up the money. My brother looked down his nose at me and sneered. Well, money talks, doesn't it? Some people just don't care about family ties, no matter how well you treat them. When it comes down to it, they only care about the cash, completely money obsessed. I said, yeah, some people have always been like that. I threw the stack of bills back at my brother. He instinctively clutched the money to his chest and demanded, what are you doing? I scoffed, don't flatter yourself, if it's something like this again. Don't send mom to block me at my workplace, it's pointless. My brother flew into a rage. Isla, how dare you throw my kindness back in my face? I'd rather give this money to a beggar than give you a single cent, you worthless leech. Just you wait, when I make it big and buy Owen a college district apartment, don't you dare come crawling back out of envy. Clearly, my brother had lost his mind over that 100 grand. I couldn't be bothered to hear him out, so I just shut the door and left. Downstairs, a familiar figure was lingering by the residential gate. Seeing me come out, they quickly stepped in front of me. Isla, I finally found you. Kyle doesn't know where I live now. I specifically told the security guard at my workplace that he's a stalker and to call the police if he shows up. He can only lurk around my neighborhood. I frowned and said, Kyle, didn't I tell you we already broke up? Kyle's hand was still in a cast, his face full of misery. Don't listen to their nonsense. They're not good people. They're just trying to break us apart. How can you believe other men over me? Oh really? I pulled out the screenshots of those chat logs and showed them to him. I got these messages too. Kyle, you talk about me behind my back like this and still expect me to trust you. The moment I presented the evidence, Kyle knew he was in the wrong and actually dropped to his knees with a thud. I was wrong. Isla, I was really wrong. I was just caught up in the moment and talking nonsense. You saw how everyone in the group talks like that. If I didn't follow along, they wouldn't have let me off the hook. I had no choice. Look at my face, my arms. They did this to me. Isla, I know you still have feelings for me. Please, just forgive me this once. Kyle started slapping himself wildly across the face, drawing the attention of passers-by. Someone, seeing his reddened cheeks, couldn't bear it and stepped in to reason with me. Young lady, this young man clearly knows he's made a mistake. How about you forgive him? Seeing others take his side, Kyle doubled down on his act, dropping to his knees before me with tears and snot streaming down his face, proclaiming how much he loved me and couldn't bear to lose me. The crowd grew larger, and some people began to blame me. Oh come on, he's already on his knees begging, with so many people watching. Just let it go. Don't push your advantage too far. Young couples argue all the time. Young women these days are so dramatic, they push men to this point. Listen, a girl shouldn't be so harsh, or no one will dare date her in the future. I crossed my arms and looked down at him coldly. He's kneeling because he's spineless. If he'd posted your family photos in a group chat for a bunch of men to make crude jokes and insults, he'd be kneeling for you too. I glanced at the people speaking up for him and said, if you're so compassionate, why don't you kneel down with him? Someone immediately shouted, why should we? It's none of our business, I retorted. Exactly, it's none of your damn business. He's a slap in the face, but you're two slaps. Anyone who pities him can go be with him. Stay away from me, you're all an eyesore. With that, I pushed through the crowd and walked away without looking back. Before long, I got a call from the loan company. The 100 grand's been recovered. Cash or bank transfer, I said in surprise. That was fast. You don't think he'll quit while he's ahead, do you? The voice on the other end chuckled dismissively. You're giving him too much credit. If you ask me, it won't be long before he mortgages his house too. This 100,000 isn't part of the commission. Take it whenever you want. I didn't expect these folks to be so particular, I said. Keep this as compensation for your trouble. There's this scumbag who's like a persistent leech. If you happen to see him around later, just do me a favor and take care of it. For the next 2 months or so, everything seemed calm on the surface. I had applied for a transfer to another province through my workplace, and the approval paperwork had just come through. After work one day, I spotted my brother lurking suspiciously by the main entrance of our office building. As soon as he saw me come out, he rushed over and grabbed my arm, saying, Isla, you've got to help me this time. The last time I'd seen him, he'd been all high and mighty, looking down on me with contempt, but now he was cowering timidly, his face deathly pale, eyes bloodshot and wide with desperation. He looked utterly haggard, as if he hadn't slept for days on end. I lost some money playing cards. Can you lend me some? You must have 20 or 30,000, right? Transfer it to me. I need it urgently. I pushed his hand away and said, I'm renovating my place right now. All my money's tied up in the house. What's going on with you? Do mom, dad, and your wife know you lost money gambling? My brother looked at me in a panic and said, they can't find out. Don't say a word. I have a way to make the money back. I just need a little capital. How much do you have left? Transfer it all to me. As he said this, he tried to grab my phone. I dodged his hand and said, all right. I've only got 1,500 left. I'll send you 500. Okay, take it all. I won't have anything left to eat this month. My brother was like a rabid dog, refusing to back down. How much can you possibly eat in a month? Isn't 500 enough? After freeloading off the family for years, now you're being stingy. Transfer me 1,000. No, my brother only left, grumbling under his breath. After he saw the 1,000 yuan hit his account, I watched his retreating figure with a smile, knowing he'd soon reap what he sowed. After my brother lost all the money meant for buying a school district apartment, he started taking loans from lending companies. It began with 50,000, but the losses snowballed. He couldn't stop and there was no turning back. The debt had already piled up to 750,000. After hanging up the phone, I looked at the suitcase beside me and decided to go back home. At the entrance of the neighborhood, the scar-faced man whistled at me from his van. What a coincidence. Didn't I tell you I'd come to collect the debt today? Having second thoughts, I shook my head and said, I'm leaving. Their business has nothing to do with me. I'm back today to say goodbye and to put the past behind me for good. The scar-faced man looked down and asked, oh, where are you headed? I eyed him suspiciously, asking about me. You're not looking to start trouble, are you? He shrugged. Not at all. You're a major client of ours. Just wondering if there might be future opportunities to work together. I noticed a figure in the distance and said, right now. This guy is lurking near my place again. Guess he didn't learn his lesson last time. Who are you guys? Do you know Isla? Kyle stepped forward, putting on a boyfriend act as he positioned himself between me and the scar-faced man. Though he kept his distance since they clearly looked shady, the scar-faced man caught the hint and motioned for a few guys to approach Kyle. He grabbed him by the shoulder and said, what the hell are you? Kyle struggled weakly, like a chick caught in a wolf's jaws. Completely immobilized yet still defiant in his words, I'm her boyfriend. If you've got a problem, take it up with me. Don't you dare bully a woman. The scarred man smirked. So you're her boyfriend. Perfect. You can pay back the money she owes us. At the mention of debt, Kyle's eyes darted away and his voice grew faint. How much does she owe you? The scar-faced man gestured a number. 1 million. Leave your ID with us first. We'll figure out how you're going to pay us back later. As he spoke, the scar-faced man made a slicing motion toward Kyle's waist. You've got 2 kidneys here. don't you? That should cover it. Kyle immediately backed down, changing his tone. Hey man, let's talk this out. Actually, I broke up with this woman a long time ago. I just happened to be passing by. She owes you money, but it's not right to come after an ex-boyfriend for it, don't you think? The scar-faced man scratched his head. Just passing by. I feel like I've seen you more than once. At that moment, Kyle was probably kicking himself, wishing he could just vanish on the spot. It's really a misunderstanding, man. I was just here a couple of times to take care of some business. I don't usually come around here. Please let me go, man. This woman has nothing to do with me. The scar-faced man finally let go. Get lost. Kyle clutched his arm, bowing and scraping as he backed away, then scurried off in a flash. The scar-faced man walked up to me with a look of disgust. What kind of loser did you dig up? You must be blind. I was left speechless. The scar-faced man gave me half an hour, letting me enter first. I stood at the doorway and faintly heard arguing and the sound of things being smashed inside. As soon as I opened the door, chaos erupted inside. My little nephew was crying on the side, while my sister-in-law was pulling my brother's hair and shouting, "Tyler, you damn scoundrel, how dare you gamble away my son's house fund? I'll fight you to the death today." My parents rushed over to break up the fight. Ping, stop hitting him. Tyler knows he was wrong. Let go before you seriously hurt him. Exactly. Money can be earned back. Let's work together as a family to figure this out. After being pushed away, my sister-in-law pointed at my parents and said, "Figure it out. You figure it out. You come up with the money. I'm not cleaning up his mess. I've consulted a lawyer, and even if we're not divorced yet, Tyler's debts are his alone. They have nothing to do with me. Don't you dare drag me into this." She pulled out the divorce papers, threw them in my brother's face, and said, "Tyler, if you have any conscience left, you'll sign these, give me custody of the child, and walk away with nothing." My mom picked up the divorce papers and pleaded, "Xiaoping, you and Tyler have been married for so many years, and Owen is already this grown up. How can you just jump to divorce like this? We know he messed up this time, and we'll definitely give him a talking to. Please don't make such a hasty decision." My sister-in-law shook off my mom's hand and snapped, "Cut the fake concern. The way he is today is exactly how your family raised him. A spoiled brat from a modest background who acts like he's rolling in money. He blew tens of thousands without batting an eye. Did he ever stop to think about me and the kids?" My brother held his head in his hands and sobbed, "I did it all for you and the kids." Pfft. My sister-in-law spat at him. "That's a load of crap. When you were making money, you never spent a dime on us. But when you lose it, you expect me to help pay it back. Tyler, I've never met anyone as shameless as you. We're getting divorced today, and that's final." My father glared at my sister-in-law and said, "Fine, if you want a divorce. We have two conditions. Owen stays with us, and you return the 300,000 betrothal gift." My sister-in-law let out an incredulous laugh. "What do you take me for? Just because your own daughter can't get married off, you think you can claw back the money you spent? Not a chance in hell." Just then, my mother finally noticed me standing by the doorway. "Isla, where have you been? I was just about to go look for you." My mother pulled me inside, clutching my hand as she sobbed uncontrollably. "Your brother borrowed money and can't pay it back. Now your sister-in-law is demanding a divorce. You have to do something. Please save your brother," my dad said. "Exactly. You still have that other apartment, right? Our family's all living in this old place, so we can't sell it. That one's just sitting empty. Why don't you sell it and help your brother pay off his debt?" Hearing that, my brother visibly brightened up. "Isla, thank you. You're my only hope right now. You've got to help me get through this rough patch." I put on a hesitant face and said, "I already sold that apartment. I took the money and put it all into stocks like people said, but the market crashed this week and I lost everything. I came back today to ask if the family could help me cover next month's rent." My parents were completely thunderstruck, and my brother looked utterly incredulous. "No way, you're lying, aren't you? You just don't want to pay me back," I said. "If you don't believe me, go check. I don't own any real estate under my name. I did sell that apartment because it became part of a school district and its value tripled or quadrupled since I bought it. But the part about stock trading was made up." My brother flew into a rage, practically lunging at me. "You good for nothing. How dare you sell the house behind our backs and gamble on stocks? What were you thinking? Trying to play the market with that pea brain of yours? Now you've ruined us all." My mother collapsed to the floor, clutching my little nephew and sobbing. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of frantic knocking at the door suddenly cut through the shouting and crying. "Tyler, I know you're home. Paying back what you owe is only right. Got it. If you don't cough up the money today, I'll break your damn door down and take it out of your hide." Owen was about to burst into tears when my mom clamped a hand over his mouth. My sister-in-law bolted into the bedroom and locked the door behind her. My brother, in a panic, tried to jump out the window, 6 floors up, a fall that could have killed him. My dad rushed over and grabbed him just in time. Thud, thud, bam. The banging on the door started again, the clatter of iron bars ringing out. My mother and little nephew were so scared they hid behind me. "Isla, they're not going to break in, are they? They wouldn't actually do anything, right?" I said. "Everyone's home." If we let them in, who knows what they might do. Maybe my brother should go out and talk to them, ask for a few more days. My brother snapped. Are you trying to get me killed? This has nothing to do with you anyway. You go out and talk to them. They won't lay a finger on you. Just tell them you'll find a way to pay it back. Hearing this, my mom rushed into the room, pulled out a bank book, and shoved it into my hands. She said, "Yes, Isla. Go tell them. There's 50,000 yuan in here. Use it to pay them back on your brother's behalf first. For the rest, just say our family will find a way to cover it." I looked at them and asked, "You really want me to go?" My brother was panicked by the banging on the door. Seeing how unmoved I was, he glared at me angrily and snapped, "If it weren't for you refusing to transfer the house to me, none of this would have happened." My dad peeked toward the door and said, "You're a girl. They won't do anything to you. Don't worry. If they dare lay a hand on you, I'll call the police and have them arrested." Before I could even speak, the three of them shoved me out without a word, leaving me standing alone outside the door. My little nephew inside cried out, Don't open the door for Auntie, I'm scared." The scene before me felt like a flashback to my last moments in a past life, abandoned by my family at the door, with menacing debt collectors waiting outside. But this time, it was I who abandoned them. After handing the passbook to the Scarface man, I boarded a plane to another province. The money in my account was enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. From now on, everything about that family would have nothing to do with me. Outside the cabin, the clouds were painted by the setting sun, and warmth enveloped the sky. The first-class cabin had internet access. Scrolling through my phone, I came across a post where someone asked, "If you win the lottery, should you tell your family?" I typed out a line in the comments, "After winning the lottery, don't tell anyone." Story 2. After my grandmother looked at me but called out my mother's name, I quit my job and took her back to the village to care for her in her old age. Unexpectedly, just a few days after returning to the village, the apocalypse arrived. 1. I realized something was off with my boss. Lately, my boss has been acting unusually. 3 months ago, she sold all her shares and shifted from being a full-fledged owner to a professional manager. Last month, she sold her luxury mansion in the city and has been living in hotels every day. This month, she even got rid of her luxury car and now commutes to and from work on an electric bike. In other words, she was cashing out. I also discovered that she seemed to be building a house in her hometown. I overheard her on the phone once, speaking in a low voice. I only caught a few incomplete phrases. Like, price is no issue. I only want the sturdiest, most advanced materials and make sure to have bulletproof glass and explosion-proof doors. She would also casually drop hints to us secretaries, stock up on rice and oil at home, better to be safe than sorry. Who knows what the future holds? We should be prepared for anything. I know you all don't have the time or mood to cook, but you should still prepare some instant foods. Don't forget how during the pandemic a single pack of noodles lasted 3 days. I've always admired my boss. She's a renowned powerhouse in the industry. From a nanny to the head of a major corporate group, her extensive experience and savvy are incomparable to ordinary women, having been through ups and downs in the pharmaceutical industry for over 20 years. She has seen it all. What major event could possibly be looming that has her thinking of retreating and hiding? Yet now she's liquidating assets and subtly warning us. If the boss is planning to flee, what about me? 2. My grandmother looked at me but called out my mother's name. Heavy-hearted, I returned home. Today, my boss mentioned several times that the countryside is the safest place. I could sense her anxiety. And as one of her newly promoted secretaries whom she was quite pleased with, her anxiety gave me an indescribable sense of panic. As I opened the door, I immediately saw my grandmother lying on the rocking chair on the balcony. She seemed to be asleep, and the setting sun cast a mottled light through the window curtains onto her, creating a serene yet fragile atmosphere. My heart tightened as I gently called out to her, "Grandma." I saw her slowly open her eyes and slightly lift her head, squinting at me. She let go of the hand fan she was holding and slowly propped herself up, calling out Rose. A wave of immense sadness and fear engulfed me. I quickly lowered my head, clumsily put down my bag and changed my shoes while cheerfully calling out, "Grandma, did you make dinner? I feel like having mixed rice today." It took a while before I heard my grandmother respond, "Is it Ping Ping coming back? You want mixed rice? I'll go make it." I leaned against the kitchen door frame, watching her cook and chattering about my colleagues at the company. Grandma was always smiling, occasionally glaring at me and saying, "You naughty girl," speaking ill of others behind their backs. After eating and drinking our fill, I took her for a walk downstairs. Once she was settled and asleep, I returned to my room and finally let the tears I had been holding back flow. Rose was my mother's name. And this wasn't the first time my grandmother had mistaken me for her. 20 years ago, my parents died unexpectedly, leaving 7-year-old me an orphan. My grandparents traveled from afar to the city. After my parents passed away, I was brought back to my hometown. As time went by, I grew up and my grandparents aged. Eventually, my grandfather passed away, leaving just my grandmother and me in our world. Then, I got into university. The day I ran to tell my grandmother about my acceptance letter, her expression was a mix of joy and sorrow. and my excitement was replaced by an inexplicable sadness. I suddenly realized that as I grew older, in my grandmother's eyes, I slowly started to take the place of her own daughter. My grandmother stayed with me in this city throughout my 4 years of university, 2 years of postgraduate studies, and 3 years of working. We lived for 6 years in an old house in the old district, a house left by my parents. It had been sealed for over a decade, the first time we entered. Both my grandmother and I felt a sense of surrealism. I still remember, as if it were yesterday, my parents holding me, joyously opening the door and exclaiming, "We finally have a house, we finally have a home in this city." When I graduated from my postgraduate studies, we received a demolition notice. My grandmother and I felt both melancholic and attached to the place. I received a considerable sum of money and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment where I now live. I also found a job easily and settled into a 9-to-5 routine. I thought life would just continue like this, but the year before last, my grandmother fell and injured her back. She spent 3 months in the hospital and changed afterwards. She became somewhat confused and clingy, sometimes rambling, other times silent. One morning, as I stepped out of my bedroom, I saw my grandmother lying on the lounge chair on the living room balcony, bathed in the soft red glow of dawn. And I felt a sense of distance. My heart ached, her hair had turned white, her face had aged, and her body had become sluggish. I thought, perhaps my job isn't absolutely essential, perhaps I don't need to stay in this city, perhaps it's been too long since I took her back to our hometown, the courtyard on the hillside. Had it become overgrown? I took leave and took my grandmother back for a visit. Not only our little courtyard but the entire village seemed deserted. The handful of families that once lived around had all gone. After staying in our hometown for 3 days, my grandmother seemed to regain her vitality. She didn't stop for a moment, pulling out the overgrown grass in the courtyard and dusting off the inside of the house. Lying on the traditional Kong bed, I asked her, "Shall I stay here with you?" My grandmother was silent for a while before sighing, "Good child, this isn't a place for young people to live permanently. It's better for you to stay in the city." I laughed. "Living in the city is exhausting, Grandma. I don't want to work anymore." "How can you not want to work? Your grandmother still hopes you'll find a good job, find a boyfriend, and settle down." "Grandma, settling down is all about fate. While you're still healthy, let's live here for a few years. We can move back to the city later and it won't be too late to settle down then." Grandmother remained silent. Back to the city. After returning to the city, I continued my 9-to-5 life, and my grandmother continued to cook 3 meals a day for me. We never brought up the topic again, but where my grandmother couldn't see, I carefully sorted out my assets, including those left by my parents, the compensation from relocation, and what I had earned myself. It was quite a substantial amount. I hired a designer to create the style I wanted and chose a medium-sized construction firm that also had a subsidiary specializing in interior design. It was perfect for a one-stop service to rebuild my grandmother's small courtyard. Using the excuse of a business trip, I returned home alone. The construction company was very reliable, whether it was the house or the small courtyard. Everything was arranged exactly to my specifications. After a successful inspection and sending off the construction crew, I rented a truck and headed to the local flea market, where I picked up many vintage items. That year, I went on business trips about a dozen times, and each time, I put the house in perfect order. The last time I returned to the city was on my mother's birthday. As I pushed open the door, I saw my grandmother sitting at the dining table with a cake in front of her. Grandmother looked at me, her lips moved slightly, and finally, she called out, "Rose." I quickly walked over and hugged her, regaining her composure. She smiled and asked, "Is Ping Ping back?" I thought, no need to hesitate anymore. It's time to go back. When I submitted my resignation, my boss looked at me somewhat surprised. I smiled and said, "Boss, this city isn't for me. I originally came here because of my parents." After arriving, I realized that no matter what, I couldn't return to the joyful days of my childhood with my parents. Not only did I fail to recapture the feelings of my childhood, but I also burdened my grandmother, forcing her to leave her home and live alone with me in this big city. In these 2 years, my grandmother's spirits have declined significantly, and I feel that staying in this city isn't absolutely necessary, so I've decided to go back. My boss sighed with a sense of relief. "You've come to realize this at such a young age. It's not easy." As I was leaving her office, she suddenly stopped me. "I'll be honest with you. I've built a sturdy house back in my hometown, and in about a month, our whole family will move back there to live." I looked into her meaningful eyes and bowed deeply. Just a month's time, half a month later, when I returned to that home halfway up the hill with my grandmother, her body trembled slightly. I wiped her tears and asked with a smile, "Grandma, do you like it?" She stared straight at the house, and after a long while, she exhaled deeply. You child, you child." My grandmother is Korean. My grandfather, a sent-down youth, stayed in my grandmother's village for 2 years before returning to the city, taking my grandmother with him. After my grandfather retired, he bought this hill in the countryside and built 4 rooms halfway up the hill, in the architectural style of the Korean community, where they lived for 10 years until their beloved daughter had an accident. Now, more than a decade later, the house had aged, and the yard was overgrown. To move back and restore it to the way my grandmother was accustomed, and also to accommodate my needs, it had to be renovated. The hill wasn't very high, its altitude was just under 400 meters, located within this continuous mountain range. It isn't particularly conspicuous. The main reason my grandfather leased it in the first place was because the small hollow at the base of the mountain housed our family's ancestral tomb. In those years, many wealthy people like to lease entire mountains to build ghost houses and develop cultural tourism projects. Grandfather was worried that our mountain might also be taken over, which could disturb the resting peace of our ancestors, so he had no choice but to lease the 2 mountains flanking the small hollow. Our house was built on the mountain to the east. There is a platform a little way up the mountainside where the house is located. Looking at the winding stone stairs leading down from the door, I smiled as I pushed my grandmother. "Grandma, go and heat the kong. It's our first night here. Make the house nice and warm. I'm off to do a big shop." Grandma smiled in agreement, glanced at the neatly stacked wood by the courtyard wall, and scolded me jokingly. "Silly girl, you can tell that wood is bought. Living next to a mountain and still buying firewood. What a waste. Come back early. I'll make braised pork for you." I smiled broadly and cheerfully ran down the mountain. For candor, after climbing the mountain 8 times in one day, I was so sore by evening that I groaned in pain until Grandma massaged my legs with a hot towel until I finally fell asleep. The next day, as I was about to go down the mountain again, Grandma held me tight and opposed vehemently. "Pinpin, tell Grandma what's really going on. You quit a perfectly good job, and if you want to move back home, that's fine. But look at this house you've built. It's like a fortress. This house lacks nothing. Yesterday, you ran up and down, buying so much stuff, enough to last us half a month. I thought you were just overly excited. But why are you going out again today?" I paused, not knowing how to begin. Grandma held my waist tightly, refusing to let go. "Tell me the truth. Have you offended someone out there? Are you in debt? Have you come back home to hide?" I couldn't help but laugh and cry. "Grandma, what are you thinking? How could your darling granddaughter be involved in such things?" Seeing her still puzzled, I reluctantly pulled her back into the room, sat down face to face with her, and decided to clear things up. "Grandma, renovating the house. I just feel like I've had enough of the big city, especially after the demolition of our old place. All traces of Mom and Dad were erased, and I couldn't find any reason to stay there. I often miss the days when I played on the mountain with you and Grandpa as a child. I feel like this is where my home truly is." Grandma's eyes welled up, and she sighed. "My girl, you will need to get married someday, and this remote place doesn't even have a neighbor." I smiled. "Grandma, in the big city, how many of our neighbors do you actually know?" Grandma patted my hand. "It doesn't matter if I know them, but you do. How can a young woman live alone in these mountains forever?" I laughed. "I have you, Grandma. I'm not afraid or lonely." Not letting Grandma sigh again, I continued. "Grandma, to get back to the point, I wasn't in a rush to come back even after the house was built, but recently I've felt something is off. First, my boss cashed out, selling almost all her assets. I also overheard her gossiping, some even wealthier than her. There's been talk of possible unpredictable disasters now that we've immigrated." I said. "What kind of disasters?" "I'm not sure and I dare not guess, but I heard that my boss went back to his hometown and built a house using bulletproof and explosion-resistant materials." Grandma looked a bit pale, so I patted her hand reassuringly. "Grandma, don't worry. Look at our home. It's very sturdy. Plus, it's halfway up the mountain and there's no one else around. Nobody will come up here." I glanced out the window and smiled. "Let's stock up on supplies. Enough for a year or two, once we're prepared. I'll cover up the path down the mountain, and then we'll have nothing to fear." Grandma was silent for a while before she stood up, leaning on my shoulder. "Okay, my dear, you go and buy the supplies. I'll stay home and get things organized." As I walked down the path, Grandma called out, "Come back soon, and buy some vegetable seeds." Nodding, I suddenly felt a surge of energy and started to hop and skip joyously, stockpiling. I rented a small van and bought an electric stair-climbing cart that could carry several hundred pounds of goods. Although stone steps weren't as even as stairs and the cart didn't move as smoothly, it saved me much more time and energy than carrying things up by myself. About 10 miles from my house, there was a small town with a local market. It was late autumn, and there were plenty of fresh vegetables, mostly grown by the town's residents. I bought a lot, at home. We had several large barrels that had been in the old house from before, reportedly carried up one by my grandfather, who was of Korean descent and skilled in making pickled vegetables, which he prepared for Grandma. Grandma was delighted and busily started to clean and gradually fill the barrels with vegetables. The small town market couldn't meet all my shopping needs, so I drove the van to the county town. The county had a large wholesale market where I made several trips. The place was bustling with vendors, and I blended in easily. I bought lots of fruits and made many jars of fruit preserves and lots of fruit jams. I bought beef and lamb, and Grandma made lots of dried meats and sausages. I bought chicken, duck, and goose meat, and made cured meats from them. We had 2 freezers, which I filled with lots of pre-made frozen foods. I bought lots of rice and flour, all vacuum-packed. I bought many vegetable seeds and lots of spices and seasonings. I also bought lots of charcoal and a variety of cleaning products, including paper towels, facial tissues, and sanitary pads. I treated myself to a lot of snacks too, but it still wasn't enough. I also bought a collection of self-defense tools like expandable batons, spiked maces, stun flashlights, and pepper spray. I then went to the largest supermarket in the county and bought lots of clothes suitable for summer, spring, autumn, and winter. I also bought some alcohol. Grandma used to occasionally join Grandpa for a drink when he was alive. I bought 2 diesel generators and visited several gas stations to fill up 10 barrels of diesel. I bought many empty barrels for storing water. Towards the end, I had no plan and just bought whatever I came across, whatever caught my eye. On the day the boss posted in flight, "Do not disturb" on his social media, I returned the van and hitched a ride to the old village near my maternal grandfather's home, then walked back from there. I stared at the house where I lived with my grandmother, observing it from a distance as it gradually came into view, yet it remained hidden. I breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was a huge ginkgo tree in the courtyard that covered the sky and shielded the house and yard beneath its canopy, making it unnoticeable to outsiders. There was also a platform halfway up the hill with a house on it. Fortunately, outside the courtyard wall were tall, continuous pine trees. Fortunately, the house was only 1 story tall and built according to the Korean ethnic minorities' architectural style, which made it shorter than typical bungalows. Also fortunately, the house was built in spring. The vegetation on the upper part of the mountain had grown wildly over the summer, with branches and vines stretching out and climbing onto the roof, concealing the tiles. I used nearly my last bit of energy to cover the path leading up the mountain with rocks, weeds, and dead branches, finally making it home. Everything as usual. I slept for a whole day and night. When I woke up, I felt a bit dazed. My feet were warm. I strained to look and saw that my grandmother was applying a hot towel to my feet. I sighed. "Grandma, this feels so comfortable." Her gentle voice flowed into my ears and heart like a stream. "Awake now. You really exhausted yourself, my girl. You went straight to sleep as soon as you got back, and nothing could wake you. You gave me such a fright. Your feet are all blistered. Your calves are stiff as boards. My poor girl has suffered." As my grandmother massaged me for a while, I twisted my body to feel the soreness and laughed. "Grandma, I crave the spicy fish stew you make." She placed my feet back under the covers, chattering about letting me rest more, then got up to cook the fish. I took out my phone to check the messages. Nothing unusual. The world was just as it had always been. Social media was still full of advertisements, couples showing off their love, young girls lamenting the changing seasons, successful men flaunting watches, cars, houses, beautiful women, and various jewels. Nothing out of the ordinary. I browsed various platforms. Still, all was peaceful. Occasional safety incidents, fires, traffic accidents, and criminal cases sparked discussions. Some internet celebrities stirred up minor or major topics, generating a wave of traffic. The most heated discussion recently seemed to be about the royal secrets of a certain old capitalist country. I felt somewhat relieved. Putting down my phone, I slowly got up and glanced at the mess of clutter everywhere. It seemed I had bought too many assorted items, and Grandma couldn't keep up with tidying them. Grandma called me to eat, and I threw off the thin blanket and sat down at the dining table. I first slurped a few mouthfuls of soybean paste soup, the savory broth and tender tofu warming me up inside. Grandma watched me with a smile. "No need to rush. My girl, eat slowly. That's how you take care of your stomach." I nodded. "Grandma, food cooked on a wood stove tastes better. It's been so long since I had this flavor." Grandma chuckled. "Indeed. The gas stoves in big cities just can't replicate this taste." With each sip of soup, each bite of rice, and each piece of spicy fish, the meal was filled with laughter and chatter, leaving my stomach satisfied and my spirit relaxed. After having our fill and cleaning up the dishes, I started to sort through the numerous and miscellaneous items scattered around the house. There was no wall on the east side of the courtyard. In fact, there were no walls on the east, west, or north sides of the courtyard. The west side faced a cliff and didn't require a wall, while the north and east sides were bordered by mountains, making walls unnecessary there too. On the eastern mountain, about 3 or 4 meters above the ground, there was a cave that my grandfather had stumbled upon. When I was very young, he used to set up a ladder and carry me up there. The cave wasn't very big, roughly the size of a room, filled entirely with rocks, for a while. My grandfather would climb up daily, tinkering inside. My grandmother would chide him for creating unnecessary work, to which he'd jovially retort, "I'm building my own home. If you ever annoy me, I'll just pull up the ladder and stay in my cave, out of your reach." As time passed, many things happened. Most importantly, to accompany me to school, my grandparents took me to the county town, this cave. Once a secret sanctuary shared between my grandfather and me, had not been visited by me for a very long time. While cleaning the house, I thought about having the construction company clean the cave too, but after some consideration, I decided against letting strangers enter. I preferred to wait and clean it myself when I returned. Now, in case of unforeseen circumstances, if my grandmother and I can't even hold on to our home, this cave could very well serve as our last refuge. 7. I hid in paradise. The large ginkgo tree in the courtyard stood next to the eastern mountain wall, perfectly concealing the cave entrance with its trunk. There was less than a meter's gap between the trunk and the entrance. I carefully parted the ivy hanging over the entrance and set up the ladder against the ginkgo tree, which startled my grandmother. "Girl, what are you doing? No one has entered that cave in over a decade. Who knows what's inside?" I grinned and pulled out a stun gun from my pocket. "Grandma, I've got this. I'm not even afraid of elephants." Climbing up, I peered inside. It was pitch black, but a sweep with my bright flashlight revealed nothing unusual, though the cave seemed much larger than I remembered. I placed the flashlight inside, climbed through the entrance, and took out a lighter to light a candle. The candle flame steadied after a moment, holding the candle in one hand and the stun gun in the other. I slowly walked further inside. After making a round inside the cave, tears gradually filled my eyes. The cave had indeed grown much larger, originally just 3 or 4 meters deep. It now seemed about 7 or 8 meters deep. On the southern wall of the cave, there were 2 narrow entrances leading to 2 irregularly shaped smaller caves. The cave walls didn't show many signs of being worked on. They seemed to be natural gaps between the rocks, which my grandfather had cleared of loose soil and stones. In one of these smaller caves, deep inside, there was a small pit in the ground. Occasionally, a drop of water would fall from a protruding rock above, wetting the pit. The pit was surrounded by small stones. Apart from this small pit, the entire complex of caves, both the large and the 2 smaller ones, had floors and walls made entirely of stone, with the walls left unsmoothed and occasionally jutting out. "Be cautious and you won't bump your head." The ground was smoothed out very evenly, with regular vertical stripes, a testament to Grandpa's craftsmanship. Grandma once told me that during his time as a sent-down youth in her hometown, he learned his skills from an old stonemason in the village. I wanted to take a closer look, but hearing Grandma's anxious call, I hurried to the cave entrance. "Grandma, I'm here." Grandma breathed a sigh of relief. "You girl, you should have told me you were going. Is there anything messy inside, like bugs or wild birds?" Glancing at the makeshift wooden door nailed up at the entrance, I smiled. "No, Grandma, Grandpa really did a great job. It's very clean inside, and there's even a door. Do you want to come up and see?" Grandma laughed. "I'd better not. It's too high. I might bump into something." I chuckled. "That's fine. But Grandma, it's really nice inside. We can store those non-perishable supplies we prepared." While nodding, Grandma walked back into the room. "You go ahead with your plans, my dear. I need to tidy up the house. It's all cluttered. I can't even sleep. It's like suddenly having an extra house, a secret space no one would think of. If one day Grandma and I don't feel safe in the house, we can temporarily hide here." I felt instantly refreshed. I first carried up a water tank and placed it over a small puddle to collect water. Then, I carried up several large plastic storage boxes. I found the cave on the east side was not wide or deep but quite tall, about 3 or 4 meters high, perfect for use as a storage room. Trip after trip, I brought up most of the grains and oils. In the tiny storage room, I placed 4 boxes against each wall, each filled with bags of grains and oils, sprinkled a handful of Sichuan peppercorns and spices in the gaps for pest control, and covered them with lids. I stacked another box on top of each, filled them, sprinkled more spices, and covered them, a total of 4 layers, 32 boxes. The bottom 2 layers were grains and oils, and the top 2 layers were various dried vegetables, compressed biscuits, convenience foods, and snacks. The storage room was full. I also packed the outer cave's eastern end with 3 rows and 3 layers of boxes, amazed at my own purchasing power as I saw the sealed bags of cured meats, smoked meats, and dried seafood filling the boxes, forming a wall. After I carried up Grandma's pickle jars one by one and lined them up against the north wall of the outer cave, I brought up fresh produce like potatoes, pumpkins, onions, and sweet potatoes, arranged alongside the pickle jars. They formed 3 rows as tall as the jars themselves. My body felt like it was falling apart. Dinner was eaten lying next to the dining table, and I fell asleep after just a few bites. For 7 or 8 consecutive days, each morning, I woke up as Grandma warmed my feet with a hot towel. The first thing upon waking was to check my phone, browsing friends' posts and major media outlets, all of which indicated peace. Seeing the house gradually tidy up from the clutter of supplies, my mind also calmed down. Regardless of what might happen, we were prepared. Looking once more at Grandma, smiling as she prepared scallion pickles by the stove, with a pot of steamed cornmeal cake next to her right hand and a freshly pickled bowl of chili peppers beside it, with food and drink and my dearest ones around. No matter what future conditions we may face, I feel I can handle them. In the following days, they gradually filled up the cave. Initially, I had planned to turn the small cave on the west side into a bedroom. However, upon reflection, if there ever came a time when we needed to hide in the cave, the situation would be so dire that the last thing on my mind would be to sleep in a bedroom. It seemed more prudent to be on constant alert near the cave entrance, so I decided to use the western cave as a storage room instead. We stored a lot of bedding, clothes, toilet paper, and other daily necessities there. We also stocked plenty of bottled water and charcoal, and placed a few old-fashioned coal stoves in case we needed to warm ourselves or boil water during cold spells. I also brought up most of the medications my grandmother regularly takes, as well as other common household medicines. With that, the cave was fully organized. Then, I helped my grandmother tidy up our house. By the time we finished, a month had passed since we returned here, which was half a month longer than what the boss had mentioned. After a spell of autumn rain, ginkgo leaves carpeted the yard. Standing at the entrance of my house, I carefully examined the small path leading up to it. The last time I came up, I had covered it, but not meticulously enough. Some stone steps were still visible. I quickly put on gloves and hurried down. I meticulously covered the path again with soil, dry branches, leaves, and stones. Once I returned to the entrance and checked everything, it looked fine. I glanced back at the courtyard wall. The wall was thick, although not much thought was given to it during the renovation. Safety was clearly my primary concern, especially since it was just my grandmother and me, two vulnerable women, living here. Even if not to ward off people, we needed to keep out small animals from the mountains, so the wall was built high and thick with sharp glass shards embedded on top. The main gate wasn't very large, only about 1-2 meters wide, but it was very sturdy. The builder had claimed it was virtually bomb-proof. I decided to take his word for it. I opened the door, took one last look outside, entered, closed the door, locked it, and that was it. Home sweet home. My grandmother was cooking braised pork, and the aroma filled the air. I took a look around the yard. There was no wall on the west side, and near the south wall was an outdoor toilet. My grandmother loved gardening, and the strip of land along the north side of the toilet was the only part of the yard that received ample sunlight, which she enjoyed for planting vegetables. Worried about my grandmother accidentally falling off the cliff, though not vertical, a fall could still be dangerous even for someone robust, let alone someone of her age. I nailed some wooden slats along the edge of the cliff to create a small fence. Inside the fence, I placed a row of wood about half a person's height, which increased safety without blocking the sunlight. My grandmother was very pleased with it. The west wall was a cliff face, adorned with ginkgo trees and the carefully concealed stone cave. Then there were the 4 rooms. I slightly regretted having too many windows in the house. Originally, since it was just my grandmother and I decided to have only one door in the middle for the living room, dining room, and kitchen, with a bedroom on each side. My bedroom was on the west and my grandmother's on the east, each with a fairly large French window. Complicating matters was the circular glass window I insisted on having in the west wall of my bedroom. I remember seeing a picture once of a cave with a fireplace, hot tea, and snowflakes falling outside a glass window. When building the house, I specifically asked the builder to include a circular window on the west wall of my bedroom. Let me sit by the window, and I can enjoy the view outside. The effect is truly impressive. Sitting by the window, I can immediately see the mountains across and even make out the path winding through them. The problem is, while I can see outside, the light from inside at night is too conspicuous when it shines out, but that's a minor issue. I could just keep the curtains drawn every day if necessary. The real headache is the glare from the glass. When the setting sun hits it, this large shiny pane really troubles me. Over the past few days, I've climbed onto the roof more than once to fix a layer of thatch curtains and then planted lots of ivy, which now hangs over the curtains, finally shielding the glass. That will have to do. I open the door and am greeted by my grandmother's smiling face. I was just about to call you, little girl. You've worked hard. Have a good meal to replenish yourself. I cheerfully agree and run over to her. 9. Storm brewing. It's been a week since I started learning how to embroider shoe pads with Grandma. Since locking the main door, having nothing much to do, I began learning cooking with her. Korean houses are quite unique. The entire house is built around a large heated floor system. Underneath the house, there are crisscrossing flues that warm up the floor when the fire is used for cooking. Upon entering, there are 6 wooden boards. Beneath them is a recessed area about half a person tall and 1 square meter in size, which serves as the cooking area. Under the eastern side of this area is the stove for burning firewood, topped with 3 large cast iron pots beloved by Koreans, 2 deep pots, one for boiling water and the other for cooking food, and 1 flat pot used for heating and also suitable for placing a small clay pot to cook rice. Along the north wall, there's a wall of cabinets for storing dishes, a TV, grandma's favorite plants, and during winter, also freshly potted green onions and leeks. To the east of the stove are the living and dining areas, and further east is Grandma's bedroom. The west side is divided in 2, with the larger southern part being my bedroom and the smaller northern part the bathroom, which has a shower and a squat toilet. It's mostly used in winter when it's too cold, as normally we would go to the outdoor toilet after a thorough cleanup and resting for 2 days. Having 3 meals a day cooked by Grandma quickly rejuvenated me. But soon I found myself getting bored, so I pestered Grandma to teach me cooking. I didn't know how to cook. I couldn't even boil noodles properly. It was all Grandma's indulgence. Grandma's cooking is too delicious. When Grandpa was alive, I heard him joke countless times. Your grandma's cooking skills conquered my stomach. Ever since I ate her food, she had me wrapped around her finger. Grandma would just laugh. Her satisfaction mingled with mischief. I felt the same way. Having been used to eating Grandma's cooking, even when dining out at star-rated restaurants with my boss, I never found their food particularly appealing. With nothing better to do and not wanting to just sit around watching TV all day, seeing Grandma busy cleaning and organizing these days, I thought I might as well learn something myself. It would be nice to cook a meal for Grandma, wouldn't it? Grandma is a patient teacher. How to cut pork, how to slice beef, how to prepare fish, which spices to use for kimchi, and in what proportions, how to make dough rise, how to keep the sourdough starter, how to knead dough for steamed buns, for dumplings, for noodles, for pancakes. It felt like a whole new world was opening up to me, and I was thoroughly engrossed in learning all about it. After meals, my grandmother liked to prop a cushion behind her back and lean against the south wall to watch TV and sew shoe insoles. These were traditional shoe insoles. She would sandwich several thick layers of corn husks between 2 pieces of fabric decorated with festive patterns and characters, facing each other. First, she would stitch around the edges, then outline the designs and characters, and gradually fill in the colors. Once she filled everything in, she'd use a knife to carefully cut through the middle of the corn husks, turning them into a beautiful pair of insoles. She had to wear a thimble because even with it, the needle was hard to push through. She needed an awl to help make initial holes before stitching. My grandmother was quick with her hands, finishing a pair in just a few days. I was clumsy and slow, my stitches uneven and my thread tension hard to control, making learning quite challenging. But what did it matter? My grandmother looked at me smilingly and said, "My girl has skilled hands." I was overjoyed. The second autumn rain was heavy, waking up in the middle of the night. I could even hear the raindrops hitting the ginkgo leaves. Listening to the rain for a while, I found myself unable to sleep and instinctively reached for my phone to check messages. There were many messages in a work group chat. I opened it to find that a colleague had posted a picture after midnight. It showed an ambulance in front of the apartment building's entrance with 2 people in protective gear standing beside it. Then came his comment, "After a few years, I see the big whites again." Followed by a string of question marks. Another pandemic. What virus is it this time? Are we going to have another lockdown? If we must lock down, it's fine. I have stockpiled food, and working from home won't be an issue. I'm just worried that spending too much time face-to-face with my spouse might lead to us having another kid. Optimistic of you upstairs. It's more likely marriages might break than making a baby. You guys are off topic. Shouldn't someone who knows doctors ask if it's really a virus? Yeah, if it's true. How contagious is it? Maybe check how much medical alcohol we have at home. With our past experiences, if something really happens, we should be able to control it quickly, right? A sleepless night. The next day, I felt a bit out of sorts. Grandmother touched my head and asked, "Did the rain disturb your sleep last night?" Girl, I shook my head. Grandma, I saw in my colleagues' group chat that last night an ambulance and some medical staff in protective suits took a family away from their neighborhood. Grandmother paused for a moment, then sighed. Another virus? I'm not sure. Can't say if it's an isolated case or something more. We'll see. 10. Undercurrents stirring. That colleague continued to post for 3 consecutive days that medical staff in protective suits were taking people away from his neighborhood every day. Other colleagues also started seeing them in their own neighborhoods. By the 4th day, news started coming in about various neighborhoods being locked down. A week later, the city was under lockdown. Half a month later, nearly the entire place was locked down. Many countries once again closed their travel corridors with our country, but gradually, we also heard about the virus appearing in other countries. Like before, some countries implemented lockdowns just like us, some countries are neglectful, and some leaders even brazenly proclaim that life is fate. If you have money, you get treatment. If not, you die. Every day. My grandmother burns banlangen to drink and cooks with vinegar, filling the room with a sour smell. I just smile and don't stop her. Half a month later, a colleague who initially posted in the group chat suddenly said, "The family that was taken away 5 days ago. I know them. I've been sending messages these past few days with no reply. Could it be that they're gone?" Without waiting for someone else to ask, he added, "It seems like none of the people who were taken away have come back. And no one knows their exact situation. Could they all be gone? I'm starting to panic." There was a long silence in the group chat until finally someone asked, "What virus is it that's so severe? It feels like the official reports are somewhat vague. In our community, the volunteers seem a bit off. I've heard that things have been unsettled lately, and it's left me feeling uneasy. There's no official information available, and no one seems to be discussing it on major platforms. People are discussing it subtly and cautiously." Eventually, someone expressed their feelings. "I suddenly feel so insignificant and powerless. In the face of real disaster, we're like lambs to the slaughter, utterly defenseless. No, we don't even know if we're already on the chopping block, just waiting for the executioner's blade." In the days that followed, fewer and fewer people spoke up in the group. Occasionally, someone would report seeing health workers in hazmat suits in our neighborhood, speculating that some families might have been taken away. Hardly anyone joined the discussion, and it seemed like everyone had fallen into a strange silence. There was almost no official news. No one was instructed to get tested. We were just told to stay at home. When the first snow began to drift in the sky, the internet went out. I couldn't access any news anymore. It felt like the world had fallen silent in an instant. Quietly, I took out the external hard drive and played Parents' Love, which my grandmother adored. At night, lying on my soft mattress, I couldn't sleep. Is there a virus that can infect the internet? No, at least I haven't felt it. Are there any natural disasters? No, the weather is normal. It rains when it should, and it snows when it should. I haven't heard of any natural disasters elsewhere. For the first time, I felt like I was on the fringes of society, not knowing anyone inside the system, unable to glean any insider information, now that the internet is down. I'm completely in the dark. Will we soon lose electricity and water too? My body is trembling. My stomach hurts as if a small hand is gripping it. If it let go, I could breathe. But holding on, my body convulses. I close my eyes, telling myself to stay calm, to be composed. I take a deep breath. I get up, put on my coat, walk out of the bedroom, gently open the door, and step outside. The wind carries fine snowflakes that hit my face with a slight sting, instantly awakening me. I look up at the sky. It's a dull gray. I slowly walk to the western log wall, squinting hard to look down the road below the mountain. The countryside nights are too dark. That road isn't a main road but connects village to village. It's only 3 or 4 meters wide and unlit. I can't see anything. I think, when dawn breaks, I should be able to take a telescope, climb to the top of the mountain, and have a look. All is silent. The world seems to have come to a standstill. There are still birds singing, insects chirping, wind blowing, rain falling, and snowflakes dancing. My life with my grandmother goes on just like before the internet was cut off. Eating, drinking, watching TV, sewing shoe pads. Oh no, these past few days, Grandma has been teaching me to knit a sweater. The only change is that there is too much idle time each day and not much physical labor. After discussing with my grandmother, we decided to reduce our meals from 3 to 2 a day. I checked our house thoroughly. The chimney for the stove doesn't exit through the roof but winds around under the floor of the entire room, coming out with very little smoke. Moreover, the smoke exit is located at the northwest corner of the house, shielded by the building and facing the mountains behind, making it hard for anyone to spot. Every day, I observed the small road beneath the mountain but saw no one, not a single person or vehicle. On the day of Laba Festival, the power went out. I felt an indescribable sense of desolation, although I had anticipated it. Ever since the internet was cut off, we only turned on one light each night, drew the curtains tight, and even turned off the last light when watching TV. The sudden blackout still made my heart sink. Our electricity was drawn from a substation in the old village, with cables buried over the mountain, safe and secure. Even though no one lived in the old village anymore, the houses were still there, and people would return to their ancestral homes during festivals, especially on Ghost Festival, to burn paper money for their resting relatives. So, every household still had power, it seemed, as far as I could remember. We had never experienced a blackout before. In the dim candlelight, Grandma put down the sweater she was about to finish knitting and looked at me. "What's wrong? Sad because there's no TV?" I sighed. "No, Grandma. It's not knowing what's happening outside, afraid to think or guess, worried whether I can protect you." Grandma laughed. "You silly child. Let me tell you a story," she said. I leaned on the table, resting my chin in my hands, nodding eagerly. Grandma's lips curled into a smile. her gaze drifting as she looked at the candlelight. Grandma was the youngest girl in the family, one of 8 siblings. We were very poor, extremely poor. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, my family couldn't support me anymore, so I was sent to live with my grandmother. My grandfather had lost an arm, chopped off by the enemy soldiers, and back then, there were no hospitals like today. Just a traveling doctor who treated him with folk remedies. How well could that work? He suffered through sleepless nights whenever it rained. My grandmother's back was permanently bent from running into the mountains to escape the enemy soldiers shortly after giving birth to her 3rd child, without anything to eat or drink. Of the 3 children, only your great-grandmother survived. One starved to death, and another died from illness. After a long silence, Grandma stroked my hair. Girl, you haven't lived through such hardships. Never had to eat guanine clay out of hunger, nor experienced days filled with fear. You grew up in peaceful, stable times. Don't be afraid. We can get through peaceful times, and we can get through difficult ones too. Besides, didn't your grandfather prepare a 2-bedroom flat for us? We won't lack food or drink, so what's there to worry about? She lifted the curtain to peek outside, into the pitch dark. Think about those people outside. We, grandmother and granddaughter, are fortunate to be able to hide here. How fortunate are we already? If something unexpected happens, then we must accept it. Life and death are predestined, so we should just enjoy eating and drinking and not scare ourselves unnecessarily. I laughed. Indeed, in this world, we only have each other. Whether we are alive or gone, what does it really matter? As the spring festival approached, Grandma had been coughing a bit lately. These past few days, she made a pot of tofu, boiled 2 pig's trotters, half a pig's face, and a pig's snout, steamed various kinds of buns, and fried various meatballs, all foods that I love. I followed her around like a shadow, helping and sometimes messing around as she worked. Grandma just smiled and let me be. On the morning of the last day of the lunar year, I spent a bit longer than usual on the mountaintop. These days, I climbed up every morning and looked around with a telescope. I could see a corner of the town, a temple on the highest of the hills about 2 or 3 kilometers away, and 2 villas at the foot of a mountain. It seemed I could even vaguely see some large chimneys far in the distance. No people, no signs of life, not even a light. Grandma wouldn't let me climb the mountain at night. I picked an afternoon to go and lingered until it was almost dark. I saw no lights turn on, suggesting a widespread power outage. The internet was down, and I wondered if the water was out too. We don't have municipal water at home. We drink spring water, which my grandfather had diverted to our yard from behind the mountain. If the city had also lost water, it wouldn't last many days. I remember during the last pandemic, although everyone stayed home, the outside world wasn't silent. There were emergency vehicles, ambulances, volunteers, government vehicles, and even trucks continuously providing food to the people confined at home. But now, I saw not a single vehicle, not even an ambulance. Where had all the people gone? I returned home with a heavy heart. Entering my room, I paused for a while before I realized something was off. Usually, when I came home, Grandma would hear the door and peek out of her room to see me, then relax and ask, "Is my girl back?" Then, I would bounce into the room, call out Grandma, and ask, "What's for breakfast?" But today, Grandma didn't come to the door, didn't call out to me. I had entered the room and still couldn't smell any cooking. Startled, I glanced at Grandma's bedroom. The partition door was closed. Usually, by this time, it would be open, and the bedding tidied up. I felt a chill run through me, and dreadful thoughts flooded my mind, almost paralyzing me with fear. I moved step by step towards Grandma's room, opened the partition, and saw her lying on her side facing me, eyes closed, trembling. I slowly crawled to her side and reached out to touch her face. It was warm. I breathed a sigh of relief. I felt as if my whole body had been washed in water, sweat wiped from my forehead, tears nearly spilling out of my eyes. It took a while to calm down. Staring at Grandma's face, something still seemed off. Grandma was not someone who slept a lot. With age, I couldn't even tell when she woke up in the mornings. I called out, "Grandma." She didn't respond. I touched her forehead again. It was burning hot. That's when I realized Grandma had a fever. It felt like a crisis. I knew Grandma had been coughing a bit recently, but she always had this minor issue. Around autumn and winter, a bit of cold wind would trigger her cough. It wasn't serious, barely noticeable during the day, mostly just a few coughs at night and then it would stop. She had been coughing these past few days, and neither of us took it seriously. I hadn't expected her to develop a fever. I scrambled up, rummaged through the cupboard for a thermometer, found some fever medicine, took her temperature, and then poured a cup of hot water. After much fuss, Grandma slowly opened her eyes. I propped several pillows under her waist to support her. I brought the water for her to take her medicine. After taking her medicine and finishing the water, she handed me the blanket, her voice still a bit hoarse. "Why are you shedding tears, girl?" Tears were streaming down my face. "Grandma, how come you're sick and I didn't know?" "I'm scared. Please don't frighten me," she sighed. Why are you still crying like when you were little? It's just a cold. A good sleep will fix it. Be good. There's nothing to worry about. I nodded. Grandma had a fever for 3 full days. I cried for 3 days. On New Year's Eve, I only ate 2 dumplings and had 3 sips of miso soup. I praised how I had grown up and could cook now. Then she went back to sleep. On the first day of the new year, she had a few sips of porridge. Her fever nearly reaching 39 degrees, watching her dry. Cracked lips, I was terrified, spooning water into her mouth 1 spoonful at a time. By the evening of the second day, her fever had finally subsided. I collapsed beside her, falling asleep in her arms. When I woke up, Grandma and I smiled at each other. I smelled a delicious aroma. Grandma, what tasty thing did you make? Beef soup rice. Get up and eat, girl. It's your favorite. I quickly got up. The food I had made these past few days was terrible. Even I found it hard to swallow, let alone Grandma. It made me crave real food. Grandma's health finally improved by the second day of February. I suspected it wasn't just a common cold, but that was only a suspicion. Without testing tools, we couldn't go to the hospital for a checkup, however. After the illness, Grandma seemed even more robust. She loved to move around every day in the yard, preparing to plant vegetables. After finding a nest with 3 wild chicks on the mountain, her eyes sparkled as she directed me to use the leftover wood from the house construction to build a chicken coop beside the ginkgo tree, under the eastern cliff. I grew even more fond of her, mimicking her every action during the day and often refusing to sleep in my own room at night. Insisting on being by her side, Grandma seemed somewhat annoyed with me, commenting that the little girl was regressing, but I turned a deaf ear to her words. On Ghost Festival, Grandma folded some paper money out of red paper and instructed me to burn them at the doorstep. I looked at the basket of red paper money with a tinge of guilt. Despite buying many and various things, I had never thought to buy joss paper and gold ingots. I had forgotten that every Ghost Festival, Grandma commemorated Grandpa and my parents. I wanted to go to the cemetery at the foot of the mountain to burn them, but Grandma refused. I'm worried even when you go up the mountain, going down is absolutely not allowed. All right, the intention reaches the divine. In the middle of the night, I woke up in a sweat from a nightmare. Getting up, my mind was still foggy, unable to remember the dream, just feeling terrified, as if I had stepped into nothingness and suddenly started falling, which jolted me awake. Fortunately, I hadn't insisted on sleeping with Grandma tonight, otherwise, my waking up in fright would have scared her too. Just as I was about to get up to get a glass of water from the living room, after a few steps, I heard a thunderous roar, and it felt like the ground shook. I sat down abruptly, turned my head, and looked towards the window. I scrambled to the window, my hands trembling as I pulled back the curtain. The sky outside was faintly red, my heart clenched, and I called out, "Grandma." I hurriedly got dressed, and as I crawled out of the bedroom, Grandma's partition door also opened. I gently opened the door and saw something in the southwest corner of the sky, like a meteor falling, plummeting from midair. Then came the thunderous explosions. Yes, bombings. I turned back to look at Grandma, her face ashen, my teeth chattered. "Grandma, let's go to the cave," trembling. I helped the equally trembling Grandma into the cave. The process felt like it took a lifetime, though it was probably swift. The menacing sound of bombers was almost overhead, pulling the ladder inside. We quickly closed the cave door and collapsed to the ground beside Grandma. Thankfully, I had reinforced the cave door, mixed with mud and straw. I had also inserted some thin steel bars into it, making the door much sturdier. The exterior was camouflaged to match the cliff's color, making it hard to spot the cave unless looked at closely. Taking a deep breath, I went to the innermost storage room, moved some storage boxes together to serve as a mattress, found several blankets to lay over them, helped Grandma sit on them, and then pulled over more blankets to cover us. The 2 of us huddled together, enduring a night filled with anxiety and dread. 14. Escape from the volcano. The following night, I quietly opened the cave door, seeing the sky outside. There was an eerie red hue. I climbed up the ginkgo tree and watched for a long time. It seemed like there was a fire in the direction of the town. The sounds of bombing had ceased. In fact, since Grandma and I hid in the cave last night, there hadn't really been any explosions. Perhaps the town was just a casual target for the invaders on their way to their real objective. Did the townspeople have any chance of survival, with the bombing and now a fire? Was there any hope left? I went back into the cave and gave Grandma a wry smile. "Grandma, it seems that the town has caught fire. The fire is massive. The sky is red, likely because the mountains around the town have also ignited." Grandma's face turned pale. "Is there any way to escape? So many people," I sighed. "Grandma, no one's going to extinguish it. The wildfire will just keep burning endlessly. From what I remember, to stop a wildfire, either we need divine intervention with a heavy rain, Or humans need to create a fire break to stop the spread of flames. In the northern spring, rain is too scarce. Hoping for a heavy rain is unrealistic, and for a fire break, that would require human effort, wouldn't it? My heart was pounding out of my chest. Where would people come from? Watching the flames soaring into the sky, I felt dizzy and my ears rang. The town was only about 10 miles away. The fire could reach us in 2 or 3 days. What to do, even if we have this cave? The fire won't reach us, but what about the smoke? What about oxygen? With smoke and no oxygen, how long could we last? Not to mention the heat. With the fire spreading, this cave could turn into an oven. I looked at Grandma. Grandma, I'll carry you on my back. Let's escape. We can surely run faster than the wildfire. I can use the small handcart to push you. Grandma sighed. Grandma has become your burden. This wasn't the best plan, even if I could push Grandma past the wildfire. Who knew what was ahead? More explosions, more attacks, or maybe nothing, just dying of thirst, hunger, and exhaustion on the road. But what better plan was there? Right in front of us was a massive, towering fire. Grandma hesitated several times, wanting to speak but stopping herself. I knew she didn't want to leave, and she knew that if she didn't, I wouldn't go without her. Finally, she sighed and nodded. We couldn't travel at night, especially since Grandma was old. And the downhill path was blocked by me. Stumbling down might result in injuries before we even got far. I went back home to pack some things on the handcart. I also packed everything I could from home and stuffed it back into the cave, thinking, after the fire, Grandma and I would still need to return. The house might not survive, but hopefully, the items in the cave would. The next morning, as Grandma used the stones and trees for support and I pushed the handcart, stumbling as we finally neared the base of the mountain, I felt a drop on my forehead. I paused, thinking it was sweat. Just as I was about to say something, I heard Grandma's voice, heavy yet joyful. Girl, it's raining. I looked up, dazed. It was raining heavily. Between the dense pines, large raindrops fell hard and fast, hitting me on the body and face. Feeling cool, I glanced at Grandma. She was crying. We started living in a cave permanently that day. Despite the heavy rain, we stumbled back home with Grandma, overwhelmed with joy and tears. I set up a small stove, lit some charcoal, boiled water, and soaked some biscuits. Grandma and I each had 2 warm bowls, followed by 2 bowls of cold remedy, feeling cozily warm, with a sense of relief as if surviving a great ordeal. From then on, we lived in the cave permanently, during the day. We would come down to the house to clean and cook, and at night, return to sleep in the cave. For the first month, I was reluctant to let Grandma come down. For the first 10 days, I was even afraid to come down myself. Later, when we didn't hear any unusual noises after that one night, I ventured to come down first. I cleaned the house, cooked meals. Gradually, Grandma also came down and walked around the yard. In May, Grandma planted some vegetables, bok choy, mustard greens, and cherry radishes, saying they grow quickly and can be harvested in just over 20 days, which is convenient. Sure enough, after 20 days, we enjoyed stir-fried mustard greens and bok choy, and cherry radishes became my snack. Later, we planted some tomatoes and cucumbers, and a few chili plants in the corners. Of the 3 wild chickens in the coop, 2 survived. I was heartbroken, but these 2 grew quickly. Now they no longer stayed confined in the coop but freely flew around the mountains, only returning to the coop to rest at night. One day in June, I climbed to the mountaintop again. The small town had indeed become ruins. The mountains around the town also looked lifeless and dark. The high-voltage cables were broken. In the distance, the large blades of the wind turbines on the high mountains were still slowly turning, but summer had arrived, and the trees were growing wildly, full of life at a glance. Except there were no people, I said to Grandma. Grandma, it seems like we are the only 2 people left in this world. Grandma laughed. Silly girl, there must be others. Humans are very resilient and can survive any environment. I nodded slowly. I suddenly thought of my boss and my colleagues, wondering how they were doing, wondering if they could survive. These days, Grandma was engrossed in gardening. The small yard was clearly not enough, so she bravely planted outside the main gate onions, garlic, radishes, potatoes, beans, eggplants, and more. Unfortunately, the land wasn't great, so we could only plant a little here and there, in every nook and cranny. Some sprouts that had barely emerged were bent by stones. The light was also poor, with trees too tall and dense, only allowing some dappled sunlight to penetrate at noon, so the vegetables don't look too good, but Grandma says it's okay. As long as they can grow and leave seeds, they will do better next year. Grandma is also obsessed with making clothes. She makes shorts and t-shirts for me, long clothes and pants, padded jackets and trousers, and even underwear. Luckily, I knew Grandma liked making clothes, so when I bought supplies, I purchased a lot of fabric and accessories from a small wholesale market to keep her entertained. I don't really understand all this, and I can't even tell if the fabrics are pure cotton, but watching Grandma skillfully cutting them, saying this fabric is soft and stretchy, perfect for underwear. Or that fabric is stiff and slightly rough, suitable only for outerwear, and another with bright patterns ideal for a little skirt, is quite fascinating. I found it interesting, and Grandma pulled me in to join her. How to pattern, how to cut, how to sew, how to finish the edges. I enjoyed learning it all. I can't remember which day it was, but I sat across from Grandma, sewing a pair of socks while listening to her stories from her childhood. Suddenly, I felt as if I'd returned to my childhood. Back to a distant past, a time of primitive farming and fire. As winter came, we moved back home. Though the cave wasn't very cold, Grandma's knees always hurt, and her back wasn't great either, lying on a storage box. No matter how thick the padding, she couldn't sleep well. We needed to heat the Kong, traditional heated bed. After a few days of testing without any issues, we moved back from the cave. But I refused to sleep in my own room, insisting on sleeping with Grandma to feel secure. Grandma always smiled, stroked my hair, and whispered, "Sleep, sleep." Spring arrived. On the mountain to the west, a vast expanse of peach blossoms bloomed. Grandma said those were old peach trees that were phased out, bearing small fruits but with sweet, red flesh. I planned to pick some peaches when they ripened, to make jam and dried fruit to keep for the winter. That mountain also has apple trees, pear trees, hawthorn trees, chestnut trees, and persimmon trees. Your grandpa was stubborn, always choosing old varieties that others discarded. Why didn't he plant them on this mountain? I felt a bit disappointed. Your grandpa said, "This mountain is for living, that one for viewing and eating." I raised an eyebrow, noticing Grandma's amused smile. Grandma, was Grandpa being romantic? Grandma glared at me. "Silly girl, what romantic? Your grandpa was just bored after retirement, keeping himself busy and fit." I laughed. Later, we indeed harvested a lot of peaches, apples, pears, hawthorns, chestnuts, and persimmons. The first time I went peach picking, I was nervous, but when I returned home with a basket full of peaches, Grandma's eyes welled up, my courage grew, and I wished I could bring all the fruits from the mountain home every day. Grandma was busy boiling and steaming in a large pot, adept at making various delicious dishes from fruits. She made fruit tea, fruit wine, and even spicy pickled fruits, fruit pickles, and canned fruits, with the leftovers. I recently started making jams, dried fruits, and fruit preserves. Fortunately, I had stored plenty of sugar and salt. Otherwise, without electricity for the refrigerator and freezer, it would have been difficult to preserve these things. I never expected home life to be so busy. I get up early, cook, clean up, and sometimes stroll up and down the hills, bringing back some delightful fruits. Yes, delightful surprises. In the summer, I actually found watermelons and cantaloupes on the western hills, and even came across a Sichuan pepper tree. I also found a dazed wild rabbit under a tree. I was so excited that I rushed back to tell my grandmother, boasting about my first-hand experience of the saying to wait by the tree stump for rabbits. Also, the wild hens laid eggs. I couldn't bear to eat them, so Grandma saved some, and chose about a dozen to hatch. Surprisingly, they really hatched, 11 tiny, fluffy chicks that I absolutely adored. Grandma kept me busy, teaching me this and that. After learning so much, I couldn't help but boast, "Grandma, I think I'm quite the homemaker now. I can do just about anything." Grandma laughed. My girl is both smart and capable, year after year. Now I'm 32 and Grandma 80. It's our 5th year back at our ancestral home, and I've completely adapted to this primitive way of life. Sometimes in the dead of night, I dreamily recall those years in the big city, riding the subway, drinking coffee, using computers, making phone calls, amidst the bustling crowd. It feels like a past life. During the new year, Grandma had a bit of a cough again. I wouldn't let her exert herself, so I had her watch as I prepared the holiday goods. When the kimchi dumplings were ready, Grandma ate 7 or 8 in one go, nodding and smiling, praising my improved cooking skills. On the second day of the new year, I made a pot of soft tofu, and Grandma had a bowl of tofu pudding. That evening, I made miso soup, and Grandma had a few sips and ate some soft tofu chunks. On the third day, Grandma wanted moon-shaped dumplings with tofu filling. It was my first attempt, and they turned out quite successful. Mashed potatoes and flour, steamed to be translucent and tasty. Grandma ate only 3. Her cough grew worse. She drank autumn pear syrup, sip after sip. By the 15th day of the first lunar month, Grandma could hardly eat anything. I made very small rice dumplings, scooped a small bowl, and fed her. Grandma stretched out her thin hand and stroked my hair. "Forever and ever," Grandma said. "My girl, you've had it tough." Grandma said, "My girl, you need to eat well." Grandma said, "My girl, you need to live." Grandma said, "My girl, don't cry." Grandma said, "My girl, I see your grandpa and your mom. They've come to take me." Next to Grandpa's grave, there's a small mound I recently built. Behind my grandparents' graves are those of my parents. Sitting among these 4 graves, I light red paper money offerings. As I watched the flames dance, time seemed to slip away from me. I would head to the mountain top at dawn. scanning the surroundings through my binoculars. In spring, I gathered firewood. In summer, I picked mushrooms. In autumn, I picked fruits. And in winter, I simply lay down and rested. Another year must be nearing Ghost Festival. I remember every ghost. The spring flowers bloom, the willows sprout, and the grasslands show a hint of green. I folded another basket of red paper money, sitting among 4 graves, burning them one by one. My father was an orphan, a tough guy mixed up in society. My mother was a college student, beautiful and gentle. When I was very young, every time my father got drunk, he would hold me tight, kiss me, and with a big laugh say, "Darling, Daddy will tell you a story," he said. "Back when your mother was an intern, she was walking home at night and got targeted by some thugs," he said. "Hero to the rescue. Your dad was that great hero, tall and noble, who completely captivated your mom." He said, "I'm a tough guy, not usually one for settling down." He said, "But your mom chased after me relentlessly, and I eventually gave in and she won me over," he said. "Who would have known? Before marriage one thing, after another. Once we married, the tough guy became putty in her hands," he rambled on, his rough stubble making my face and neck ache. "When he got too rowdy, my mom would pull him by the ear into the bedroom, then tenderly soothe my face, redden from his beard. She always smiled so sweetly back then," my grandmother once said. "The first time your mom brought your dad home, I cried all night. My well-behaved, precious daughter, whom I carefully raised, ended up with a bandit. But later, I realized that although he was tough outside, he was like a goofy Labrador in front of your mom, and that reassured me. Your grandfather, he was funny. The first time his son-in-law visited, he saw me crying and got upset with me, saying as long as his daughter was happy, it didn't matter who she married, but secretly. He smoked all night long. Eventually, your dad was clever, charming his father-in-law, and they would drink together, becoming close as brothers." Wiping away a tear, I reflected on those gone before me, my parents, my grandfather, and my grandmother. My grandmother told me not to cry. "Grandma, I'm not crying. Every day I eat. I sew shoe pads. I make clothes. I knit sweaters. I take care of a flock of wild chickens. And I've even taken in some wild rabbits to raise, this year. I plan to plant potatoes and some pumpkins, hoping to steam some pumpkin buns. I check the supplies in the cave daily, ensuring they're free of insects, still plentiful. I had enough supplies to last a lifetime. At the age of 35, as spring blossomed once again, I performed another ritual burning of red paper money among my grandparents and parents. After that, I shouldered a large backpack and set out on my journey. The backpack was filled with several bottles of water, a bag of compressed biscuits, and a few lollipops. These items had remained untouched over the years. I tested them one night. They were still good, the biscuits fragrant and the lollipops sweet. I also packed a box of masks and some snacks. I brought along a freshly sharpened spiked club and tested an electric baton, which was out of power. I wanted to visit the town. Lately, I found myself either unable to sleep at all or sleeping too deeply and incessantly. Realizing that something might be seriously wrong, I decided to take a walk, to see for myself how things were outside. The path leading to the mountains was mostly covered with wild overgrown grass. Places abandoned by humans had become a paradise for plants, even this concrete road. In the past 2 years, the population of wild rabbits and birds in the mountains had increased since there were no humans to encroach upon their territory. I walked at a leisurely pace, calculating the time. I realized that my physical strength had actually become quite strong from climbing these mountains over the years. A 10-mile journey would take me about 2 hours. I didn't plan to stay long there, just long enough to check out the current situation and see if anyone else had survived. I wasn't in a hurry, so I took my time, holding the spiked club. I pushed aside the grass growing into the middle of the road while observing the scenery along the way. Our region was hilly. The mountains were not very high but were continuous, not really suitable for large human settlements. If there was flat land between the mountains, a few households would be there. If the flat area was larger, it would form villages and small towns. The surrounding counties had little industry. In recent years, a neighboring county had experienced a small tourism boom, which spurred the local homestay culture. However, because most young people still preferred to work in big cities, the local economy, primarily managed by the elderly, women, and children, lacked a strong developmental drive and gradually cooled down after the initial enthusiasm. Along the way, all was quiet except for the sound of the wind. The town lay deserted. Ruined houses and crumbling walls, half-walls of courtyards, roofless bungalows, and buildings bombed out to barely 1.5 stories. The ground was uneven, with large and small cracks in the asphalt filled with wild grass and broken stones. The town was not large, just one street that could be seen from end to end. There were about a dozen bomb craters. There were skeletons, bleached bones scattered around, no complete skeletons. Just an arm, a leg, a hand, a skull. I closed my eyes. Trying to calm my wildly beating heart, I thought I had become unflappable after my grandmother's death, yet, it turned out my heart could still beat this intensely. I looked around every corner of the town. There was no one. There were no animals in sight, not even a mouse. All that remained were broken walls, dry bones, and withered grass. Suddenly, a piercing fear overtook me, and I turned and ran, tears blurring my vision. Grandma, is it really just me left in this world, and extra? Many years later, a young couple knocked on my door. The boy carried an old, worn hiking backpack with a broken zipper, fixed with a hole and two strings tied like shoelaces. The girl had long, braided hair adorned with an old hairpin. They wore mismatched clothes of coarse, indigo-dyed fabric. I served them a Korean-style mixed rice meal. They ate heartily. The boy was quiet, but the girl was outgoing, chattering away. Without much prompting from me, she shared many stories from the outside world. Grandma, have you always lived here alone? Do you know about the great upheaval that happened a long time ago? My mother told me that when she was very young, many people fell ill. Initially, the sick were taken away, but then whole families started dying, and soon no one was left to care. My mom said her aunts, uncles, grandparents, all living in the city, died from the disease. Thankfully, my family of 4 was in the countryside. Not everyone there was spared, many died, but my family was lucky. Before we could recover from the shadow of death, enemies attacked, bombs fell like dumplings, and those who had barely survived were killed. My family survived by hiding in a cellar. Out of hundreds in our village, only my family made it. There was no house left, no food, nothing. In the early years, we were always hungry, wandering everywhere. Later, we foraged for wild fruits, caught rabbits and wild chickens, and treasured any sprouts of wheat or corn we found. Gradually, we had some crops. By the time I was born, big cities had restored electricity. When I started elementary school, we got television. In high school, my history teacher said the upheaval began when a powerful country used biological warfare, weakening our civilians and military. Then, with the help of domestic spies, they initiated a war. Even nuclear warfare. Eventually, they suffered the consequences of their own actions. The virus spread worldwide, decimating the global population. I smiled, handing the girl a glass of water, admiring her cheerful nature. The boy also smiled. Grandma, do you have any relatives? Did your children move to the big cities? I smiled. I have relatives, and no, they didn't go to the cities. They're not far from here. After eating and drinking their fill, the two said they needed to leave. It was summer vacation, and they wanted to hike and see the old boundaries. I gave the girl a bundle of clothes, sewn by my grandmother but never worn. Her face lit up with joy as she examined each piece before hugging them close and bouncing around. For the boy, I gave several clubs, 2 old cell phones without batteries, and a laptop. He looked astonished. Grandma, these are priceless treasures. I laughed. They promised to visit me again next summer. I stood at the door, watching them disappear down the path I had cleared long ago, forgetting when I had done it. I closed the door, returned to the yard, and sat down in the rocking chair under the ginkgo tree, looking up at the dappled branches and leaves. A gentle breeze swept through the mountain's vegetation, softly brushing against my cheek, reminiscent of Grandma's hand running through my hair. I squinted, a smile playing on my lips. Grandma said, "Don't cry, girl." Grandpa said, "No rush, girl, I'll make you an airplane, a wooden one, a big one." Dad said, "Sweetheart, are any classmates bullying you?" "Tell Dad, and I'll take care of it," Mom said. "Sweetie, there's a floral dress for you."